Welcome to Fanfiction Audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, like and subscribing would be greatly appreciated. If you have any recommendation for novels, comment below. Spider-Man, Across the Universe. Chapter 61, Doctor Strange. Enemy. Captain America and others were confused. This is the Avengers headquarters. Who is hungry enough to attack this place? Could it be that Thanos was dispatched in advance? However, when they went out, they found that it was not what they thought. The enemy is a group of Eagle soldiers. At this time, 5 helicopters were hovering over the lawn outside the Avengers headquarters building, and heavily armed Eagle State soldiers descended from the helicopters one by one, and surrounded the headquarters building where they were located. A look of astonishment appeared on Iron Man's face. "No, is that idiot politician serious?" The US team said helplessly, "It seems that we have to talk in another place." "The premise is that they are willing to let us go," Pedro said with a growing sense of weirdness. Not long ago, he hung out with the wanted criminals of Ant-Man's family, but was blocked in the building by the FBI. Now staying with the US team and Iron Man, and being blocked in the building by a group of soldiers. He now seriously suspects that there must be something wrong with the way he opened up this universe. He is a law-abiding and friendly citizen, why is he either being arrested by Phobali or the army all day long? Okay, let's make it fast. Iron Man began to arrange the task. Vision, cut off the network in this area. Wanda, hand over their guns. Everyone else, get on the Quinn-style fighter. So next, Bede finally saw part of the fighting power of the couple, Vision and Wanda. I saw Vision's eyes light up slightly, and the communication near the base instantly fell silent. This is to prevent the adult Secretary of State, who is so stunned, from issuing some radical instructions. At the same time, the weapons in the hands of these soldiers were all entwined by the crimson magic light. They flew up at once, turned into dust in the air, and disappeared in ashes. There was only a group of unarmed soldiers standing there blankly, not knowing whether to advance or retreat. Iron Man and others have no intention of making things difficult for these people. They gathered to deal with the crisis and save the world, not to fight against the Eagle Nation Congress. If so many soldiers are killed, the nature will completely change. The Quinjet fighter quickly took off and flew towards Black Street in New York City. I don't know whether it was the stealth ability of the Quinjet fighter that prevented the Secretary of State from finding their location, or whether the actions of Vision and Wanda played a certain deterrent effect. In short, there was no interception on the road ahead. In order to avoid causing panic, after arriving at Black Street, the US team chose to hover the fighter plane in the sky. The task of finding Doctor Strange was given to Bede, Wanda, Vision, and Iron Man, who had to follow and see, driven by curiosity. Bede was a little embarrassed to find that he couldn't fly. "Want to help?" Iron Man walked up to Bede and asked. Pedro was a little flattered by his offer, but politely declined. It was only more than 70 meters away, even if he fell face down on the ground, nothing would happen to him. What's more, who said Spider-Man can't fly? The door of the rear part of the Quinjet fighter was opened, and Vision and Wanda flew out of the hatch one after another. Bede followed suit. In mid-air, he opened his hands slightly and gave an instruction to the auxiliary system in the suit: wingsuit mode. Wingsuit mode has been activated. With a mechanical sound from the suit's auxiliary system, a spider web-like membrane opened between Bede's arms and ribs. This is indeed made of a spider web material. They are usually stored in the armpits of the suit, but when needed, they can be ejected, turning the spider suit into a spider wingsuit temporarily, giving Bede the ability to glide. However, the amount of spider silk solution inside is quite small, and the amount of film to be made is large, so this function can only be used twice at a time. After 2 uses, the solution inside must be filled in time. This made Bede a little envious of Dutch Spider's nano-metal suit, which can be retracted and retracted freely, and can be reinstalled and used repeatedly as long as it is not extensively damaged. I don't know if I have a chance to get one from Iron Man. Woohoo! The sound of the wind blew by my ears. More than 10 seconds later, his figure had fallen into the building. Pedro released the wingsuit film without hesitation, shot out a spider silk to the side, then lightly landed on the wall of a house, and then followed the wall all the way to the ground. Vision, Wanda, and Iron Man also fell beside him. "Wanda, what happens next is up to you," Vision said. Wanda nodded, and crimson magic energy surged beside her. Subsequently, these magical energies were released in all directions. However, they did not cause any harm to ordinary people, and even ordinary people could not detect the emergence of these magical energies, because they didn't appear for ordinary people from the beginning. At the same time, when the chaotic magic energy suddenly surged, Doctor Strange, who was meditating in the Supreme Sanctuary, suddenly opened his eyes. "Chaos magic! Strange!" Wong ran in from the door in a panic. Doctor Strange nodded to him calmly, "I have sensed it. Let's go meet this being who controls chaos magic and see what she wants to do when she suddenly arrives here." Found it. Outside the Supreme Sanctuary, Wanda suddenly opened his eyes and looked in one direction. Bede and others followed her gaze and found that it was just an ordinary residential building, which looked inconspicuous at all. Even if they didn't follow Wanda's gaze, they wouldn't even notice that there is such a residential building here. Wait until PETA understands. It weakens the sense of existence and makes ordinary people selectively ignore it. This is one of the characteristics of the Supreme Sanctuary. Therefore, what he saw in front of him was not real. Here is the Supreme Sanctuary. Wanda walked there first, and PETA and the others naturally followed behind. However, before they could get closer, a circle of light suddenly appeared in front of their eyes. "Hello, Master of Chaos Magic, Mr. Stark, Mr. Vision, and visitors from the parallel universe, I am Master Stephen Strange. You can also call me Doctor Strange, I like others like this call me." A handsome man in a big red cloak appeared at the other end of the circle of light. "Hello, Doctor Strange, we came here specially to find you," Bede said as he stepped out from among several people. Doctor Strange's gaze stayed on B. "You know, your appearance has violated the laws of the multiverse, and it is very likely to bring unimaginable consequences to this world. I don't want to come here either, but if it comes here so inexplicably, maybe it's because of the so-called multiverse law." Bede shrugged and said helplessly. At the same time, he also complained silently in his heart, the focus of the Supreme Mage is just different. End of this chapter. Chapter 62. Chapter 62. Doctor Strange frowned, not knowing what attitude he took to what Bede said. But PETA had no psychological burden on that. With Doctor Strange as a person, he would not be killed for this reason. And Wanda, Vision, and Iron Man behind him are not vegetarians either. He told Vision how to get the Mind Stone, and Wanda and Vision still have a high degree of affection for him at the moment. In the worst case, Doctor Strange sent him away. But is this situation really bad? To be honest, he still wished that Doctor Strange would open the multiverse channel and send him away. If it weren't for having no choice, ghosts would want to stay in this world where there is a half chance of being wiped out. The only thing he hopes is if Doctor Strange can let him choose the opposite universe when he sends him away. "Tell me why you are here," Doctor Strange said. The Supreme Mage's prediction of the future is actually a calculation of the future based on existing conditions. Therefore, before Thanos is coming, even he cannot calculate this result. This is the same as when the Ancient One in the past couldn't figure out Doctor Strange, the strongest Supreme Mage she had appointed, so she would shoot directly in the face of Thanos. "Thanos is here," PETA said. "Thanos?" Doctor Strange was stunned for a moment, then asked in surprise, "The ruler of Titan? Why is he?" As Doctor Strange spoke, his eyes suddenly closed. Within a few seconds, he opened his eyes and looked at Bede in shock. "So that's it. Collect all 6 Infinity Gems and wipe out half of the life in the universe. Thankfully he can do it." Pedro breathed a sigh of relief. However, the successive changes in Doctor Strange's emotions made him a little puzzled. What did he mean by the way he looked at him just now? "Come in, please, and tell us about your plan." Doctor Strange moved away and gestured. Only then did the four of Bede walk into the teleportation circle and enter this mysterious Supreme Sanctuary. The decoration in the Supreme Sanctuary is actually not as tall as imagined, and it is not even as interesting as Hogwarts in Bede's impression. The first reaction when entering here is solemnity, and a little darkness. This may have something to do with mages who like to study spells and are not keen on enjoying life. "Tell me about your plan carefully," Doctor Strange said after watching Bede and the others sit down on the chairs. Bede didn't know why he was asking that question when he'd seen the future, but he repeated his plan. "So the last few key figures are Thor, Hulk, and Captain Marvel, right?" Doctor Strange grasped the point. "These three all have the strength to temporarily toughen or even suppress Thanos, plus Wanda and Doctor Strange who are here now. The vision of removing gems is not considered. If you can gather them all, if you want to kill Thanos and stop his actions, the chance of success will be absolutely full." "Thor and the Hulk are together," Pete said again in a shocking news to Iron Man, "so if you can find one, you can find two. They should be on the refugee ship in Asgard by now. On the way to our planet, Doctor Strange, can you find them?" Doctor Strange closed his eyes again, and after carefully sensing it, he shook his head. "They should be quite far away from the Earth now, and I can't find their specific location." Peter felt a little sorry. Doctor Strange said, "Perhaps I can sense them when they are closer to the Earth." "Who is Captain Marvel?" Iron Man asked. "Has Mr. Stark read DC's comics?" Pete asked. Iron Man nodded. Bede said, "You can understand that she is Superman." Iron Man's eyes widened. "Are you kidding me? Could it be that she is also from Krypton?" "That's not true," Bede shook his head, "but she has the power to move planets, the speed beyond the speed of light, the physique that can survive a star explosion, and the ability to absorb and release various forms of energy, and make energy attack nullification and many other abilities." Iron Man was completely speechless. "Well, I admit it, she is Superman." "Well, Super Lady." Doctor Strange was also a little surprised. In fact, he has only taken over as the Supreme Sorcerer for a short time now, and his knowledge reserve is far behind Ancient One, so he doesn't know many things. It can be regarded as my own patch for the performance of Doctor Strange in Avengers 3, which is obviously much better in Strange 2. And since Captain Marvel left the Earth a long time ago, he naturally didn't know the existence of this one. "Where is she?" Doctor Strange asked. Bede said helplessly, "I don't know about it. I should protect the safety of that galaxy in a certain galaxy." The four Iron Man men were speechless. "If you don't know, what's the point of saying it?" "But Nick Fury has her contact information and should be able to contact her," Bede said. At the end of Avengers 3, Nick Fury took out his mobile phone to contact Captain Marvel, but at that time Thanos had already collected 6 infinite gems and snapped his fingers. When Captain Marvel arrived, everything was a foregone conclusion. But it's different now. Nick Fury, the former director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Doctor Strange nodded and drew a circle in front of him. As the light flashed by, a pitch-black marinated egg appeared in front of several people. Still a marinated egg wearing a blindfold. "The braised egg is wrong." Nick Fury is holding a burger in his hand and stuffing it into his mouth. The sudden change of scene around him startled him a lot. Fortunately, he was relieved when he saw Iron Man's figure. "Molly Falk, why are you looking for me? I'm retired now, just an ordinary old man." Nick Fury took a bite of the hamburger and said vaguely while eating. Bede admired his mental quality a little bit. "Fury, we need your help to contact Captain Marvel." "Captain Marvel?" Nick Fury paused. "That's right, Ms. Carol Danvers." Bede added. "How do you know her?" Bede received the scrutiny for the nth time in just one day, but fortunately he is used to it. Don't care how I know, but now the Earth and the entire universe are at stake, and we need the help of Captain Marvel. Bede said. I do know her, but she has been away from Earth for many years, and I can't contact her. Nick Fury shook his head again and again. Nick Fury is still trying to hide Captain Marvel. You're not a Skrull, are you? Pete said abruptly. Hey! Nick Fury looked at Bede in shock. Skrulls, what's that? Iron Man's head began to hurt, and it sounded like an alien species, especially in this sensitive period. End of this chapter. Chapter 63 Captain Marvel and number 039, S News. Chapter 63 Captain Marvel's News. Of course, the person in front of him cannot be a Skrull. Although the shape-shifting ability of a Skrull is difficult for ordinary people to distinguish, people like Captain Marvel and Doctor Strange can still find him. And it's impossible for Captain Marvel's contact information to appear in the hands of the Skrulls. Although they have reconciled, the grievances between them still remain. At most, just don't make trouble. If Captain Marvel comes back and finds that the Skrulls stole the communicator he left for Fury, you can see if they will die. This is not a soft-hearted person. On the contrary, he is very cruel. Are you afraid that he will kill a space battleship for you with his backhand? Bede took a deep look at Nick Fury and said meaningfully, the Skrulls have the ability to change their appearance at will, and can even obtain the memory of the changed object to a certain extent. Unless they die or take the initiative themselves, otherwise basically, no flaws can be found. And this race is lurking on the Earth. If they have any evil thoughts about the Earth, tisk tisk. Nick Fury frowned more and more, and the eyes he looked at Bede became more and more dangerous. Among the people present, he was the only one who had come into contact with the Skrulls, so it was self-evident to whom Bede's words were mainly addressed. Bede is not an alarmist. From the original plot of Spider-Man, Far From Home, it seems that the two Skrulls disguised as Nick Fury and Hill are helping Dutch Spider, but if you look at it as a whole, it makes people a little suspicious. Are they deliberately causing trouble? For example, he deliberately stood up for Mysterio, causing Holland's Spider to trust Mysterio. The other party was recognized by Nick Fury and Hill, and these two identities were the former director and deputy director of SHIELD. As a member of the Avengers, Dutch Spider, who has little experience, will definitely have a foundation of trust in this. Then, they deliberately let Mysterio push forward the development of the matter, deepening the trust of the Dutch Spider in Mysterio, and finally let Mysterio get Iron Man's legacy, the unmanned man who can control a whole satellite and is worth billions. Fleet of Edith Glasses. In this way, even if Iron Man's former comrades in arms are silently paying attention to the growth of the Dutch Spider, they can't find any faults. Because they were also deceived by the mysterious guest. It looks like they did nothing, but in fact they did everything. In addition, there is another biggest doubt. Shortly after the occurrence of Far From Home, the mysterious guest Quentin Baker died under his own drone, but the video of his before death was released. Edited. So, who gets access to these videos? An old subordinate of Mysterio? Those rabble-rousers who were only entangled with him because of their interests would naturally disperse as soon as Mysterio died. Who would deliver justice to him? The most suspicious ones are the Skrulls. Because after the Heroes Expedition incident, the Stark Group was investigated, and those drones were also taken away, and the data in the drones naturally fell into the hands of the FBI. With a little disguise, the Skrulls could obtain this data, edit it, and put it online. On the one hand, it destroys the Dutch Spider, the successor of Iron Man's will, and on the other hand, it takes Iron Man's huge legacy into its pocket. Even when necessary, they can directly change into the appearance of Tony Stark, and stage a scene of hero resurrection. This may be the prelude to the secret invasion of this universe. Of course, B didn't want to be a part of a possible secret intrusion. All he wants now is to finish Infinity War and get Bill Foster to help him figure out his powers and use of the quantum realm to travel across parallel universes. This world is too dangerous. Clicking on the scrolls is just to give them a little kind reminder, and by the way, a wave of goodwill. If this were the game, it would look something like this now. Nick Fury's favor ability plus 10, currently 5, cold. Tony Stark favor ability plus 20, currently 30, knowledge. Stephen Strange favor ability plus 20, currently 50, friendliness. Wanda and Vision favor ability plus 10, currently 40, friendly. Those who can achieve cognition, 1030, basically have obtained initial recognition and can speak. When you reach the level of friendliness, 3050, you will take the initiative to do something for you. Further up is the beloved relatives and friends who need to add money. It seems that you really know a lot. Nick Fury took a deep breath, and turned to look at Iron Man, who was the only one he was familiar with among the people present. Stark, tell me, what are you doing? What? I have a right to know this. Iron Man said, the thing is, there is a terrible opponent on the way to Earth, and his purpose is to destroy half of the life in the entire universe. So, if you can call your super lady friend to fight with us, then our confidence in winning this battle will be much higher. A long silence followed. The weight of what Bede said was obviously completely different from what Iron Man said. This is normal, after all, they have fought side by side for a long time. After a while, Bede couldn't help but said, Mr. Fury, do you still remember the war that happened in New York a few years ago? A space wormhole appeared there, and the Avengers were locked in a bitter battle. In the end, it was still Mr. Stark risked his life and entered the wormhole with a nuclear bomb, only to eliminate one of the spaceships behind it. The Chitauri are just a part of Thanos' Dark Army, and now, the one who came to Earth is the entire Dark Army led by Thanos himself. If you just talk about how powerful the Dark Legion is, then there is no concept at all. But when a more intuitive concept appears, people have to associate it. Just a part of the Chitauri Legion can destroy more than half of New York City, making them almost invincible. The complete Chitauri Legion is only a part of the Dark Legion. The Dark Legion is another force under Thanos. A glimpse of the leopard in the tube can be seen. This is enough to make Nick Fury aware of the power of Thanos. After listening to Bede's words, Nick Fury stood up. Doctor Strange pointed to the door. There are empty rooms on the left and right after you exit the door. You can use them as you wish. Nick Fury didn't reply and walked out directly. Bede and the others began to wait anxiously. Bede's last sentence just now not only brought pressure to Nick Fury, but also brought a lot of pressure to Iron Man and others. In the past, they just hoped to find Captain Marvel as a precaution, but now, they really hope that she can come back. A few minutes later, the door was pushed open again. In the expectant eyes of Bede and others, Nick Fury showed 2 rows of big white teeth. Carol has received the message, but she said that she is now in a galaxy hundreds of light years away from the solar system. It will take at least a week to get back to Earth. How long do we have? It should be too late, right? End of this chapter. Chapter 64 Heading to Wakanda. Chapter 64 Heading to Wakanda. Bede and the others fell silent all of a sudden. Seeing their expressions, Nick Fury's smile disappeared. No way? Could it be that the enemy has come? Bede said with a bitter tone, if there are no accidents, their advance team will come to Earth in 2 to 3 days. We may not be able to wait for Ms. Carroll's support. So fast? Nick Fury frowned again. He didn't doubt Bede's source. Since he chose to believe it, he would try to believe it a little more. It's just that if this is the case, it is indeed a pity to lose a lot of power. Now we can only hope that the changes on our side can prolong the arrival of Thanos, Bede said helplessly. Iron Man asked, how do you say that? Bede explained, if according to the original state, everyone is scattered separately, so Thanos will first choose to send his Obsidian generals to try to capture the Infinity Stones. For example, according to the original situation, Mr. Vision and Ms. Wanda will be attacked in Scotland. Bede looked at Vision and Wanda. Vision nodded and said, if it wasn't for Mr. Bede's early warning, Wanda and I would still be in Scotland 2 days later. If the other party sends someone at this time, it will be difficult for us who have not made any preparations to resist. When he spoke, Wanda on the side cast a grateful look at Bede. If there is no Bede, even if she and Vision can repel Thanos' men, they will definitely pay a heavy price for rushing to the battle. If Vision is injured or dies, she will not be able to bear it. Thinking of it this way, her favorability with Bede increased a little. And Doctor Strange will also be attacked by 2 other Obsidian generals in the Supreme Sanctuary. Bede looked at Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange nodded at him, obviously he had already seen his plot. In plot, he chose to add the variable Bede to perform the calculation, and remove Bede to perform the calculation. In the original plot deduced by removing the variable Bede, he will indeed be attacked by the Obsidian Warlord, and he will either be captured alive or die on the spot. You end up dropping the Infinity Stones anyway. In comparison, with Pete on board, everything is different. Afterwards, Bede said, in that case, we can only be defeated one by one, but Thanos uses this to continuously obtain infinite gems, and continue to become stronger, and in the end, reach an unrivaled level. It was only then that Iron Man and the others understood why Peter wanted them to gather as much combat power as possible. If it reaches the original point, it is indeed very hopeless. Iron Man said, so, any suggestions for the final battlefield? He actually adopted a questioning and discussing tone when speaking to Bede this time. This shows that he has really put Bede in the perspective of a comrade in arms, rather than the previous attitude of an ordinary friend who was slightly wary. Bede looked at Vision and said, Wakanda. Wakanda. Iron Man wondered, is it the black African country that donated the Quinjet fighter jet? Their technology is indeed advanced, but would they be willing to fight an interstellar war on their land? Bede shook his head, it's no longer a question of whether they agree or not, because they are one of the victims themselves, and they are fighting for themselves. In the future I see, when Thanos snapped his fingers afterwards, Wakanda's army was almost completely wiped out, and even their king and the patron saint of the kingdom, the Black Panther, was wiped out with a snap of his fingers. If they remain indifferent, they will surely die. He paused and continued, and, of all the places we know now, only Wakanda is suitable for fighting this interstellar war. Wakanda has a powerful sky defense barrier, which can maximize the withstanding the onboard weapons attack of the spacecraft. This will give us a certain home field advantage. In Hangzhou, when fighting a war, we must consider 3 points: time, location, and people. In terms of time, I have tried my best to help everyone get 2 days of preparation time. In terms of people, we are also doing our best. Due to the favorable location, we can only achieve it with the help of Wakanda. Iron Man and the others nodded in agreement. So, if our side gets together and Thanos finds that the method of special operations to capture the Time Stone and the Mind Stone is not advisable, it may prolong the combat time, and we will have more time, right? Steel Xia said. Bede said, that's right. Then let's set off immediately and go to Wakanda, Wanda suggested. The more she understood the horror of Thanos, the more she wanted to help Vision take out the Mind Stone as soon as possible. She didn't want to wait any longer. Doctor Strange nodded and said, I will always keep an eye on where Thor and Dr. Banner are. Once I find them, I will bring them here immediately. Please, Peter said. Doctor Strange nodded slightly. He turned to the king and said, King, if you stay here, a mage is needed to stay here, and Dr. Banner may come here. Well, Wong nodded in response. With Doctor Strange, there is no need to take a Quinn-style fighter to go to Wakanda. This can save them hours of time. Doctor Strange first drew a circle in front of them, then looked above. Iron Man glanced at the opposite scenery, understood in seconds, pressed his chest, and quickly covered his body with nano armor. "I'll notify them." After that, he flew out from the gate. At the same time, a huge halo appeared above the Supreme Sanctuary. Just when Captain America, Black Widow, and the others looked at each other, not knowing what to do, Iron Man appeared outside the cockpit of the Quinjet fighter at the right time, knocked on the glass, pointed to the aperture, and flew in first. "Captain?" Falcon turned around and asked. Captain America nodded, "Follow Tony." The Kun-style fighter started slightly and rushed through the aperture. The lively city of New York disappeared, and what appeared in front of Captain America and others was a vast virgin forest. "What's going on here?" Falcon asked in surprise. Captain America, Black Widow, and Ghost all stood at the edge of the cabin and looked out. The miraculous magic has obviously exceeded their previous cognition. Just then, they saw someone waving to them in the distance. "Come here." Iron Man gestured forward. Black Widow quickly controlled the Quinjet fighter to keep up. Soon, they saw a group of people on the edge of the jungle below. It was Pete, Wanda, and Vision, and besides them, they also knew Nick Fury, the former director of SHIELD, a coquettish middle-aged man in a cloak. Seeing this, the Black Widow lowered the plane and adjusted it to hover mode. Falcon took the initiative to stay, just in case. Others came to the ground one after another. Thanks to Sunboring for the 5,000 starting point reward, thanks to Flying Dante for the starting point coin reward. End of this chapter. Chapter 65 Welcome to Wakanda. Chapter 65 Welcome to Wakanda. Among the people standing in front of Beat and others, the leader in the middle was a very handsome black man. Wearing a well-fitting suit on his body, he looked polite but dignified. He is the current king of Wakanda, the Black Panther T'Challa of this generation. Black Panther is an inherited name, it is the patron saint of Wakanda, and the kings of Wakanda will become Black Panthers. They will consume a heart-shaped herbal juice that is a specialty of Wakanda, thereby gaining superhuman speed, strength, endurance, acuity, senses, etc. In other words, they themselves are already a super soldier who has undergone a similar genetic transformation. And they also have a Black Panther suit made entirely of vibranium. The molecules of this special metal are relatively static, making it almost indestructible at the molecular level and can even absorb heat and energy. And kinetic energy. Captain America's exclusive weapon, that shield is made of Jin, it's very precious, and even secretly practiced a set of combos with Mjolnir. And such materials, Black Panther has a whole set. It can be seen that he is rich and powerful. Wakanda has a large amount of vibration gold, which not only brought them vibration gold technology far beyond the level of Earth civilization, but also gave them inexhaustible wealth. Iron Man is rich, but compared to Black Panther, that's even worse. To give the simplest example, 1 gram of vibranium is worth about $1, and there is an entire vibranium mine in Wakanda. Behind the Black Panther stood a group of very capable-looking black women, 2 of whom were noteworthy. The one with long hair is named Nakia. She has a hot figure and beautiful appearance. She is Black Panther's lover and bodyguard. She will most likely become the future princess of Wakanda. After all, there are no X-Men in this world, naturally. No Storm either. On the other side of him, the bald woman holding a metal spear in her hand was Okoye, the captain of the Women's Guards of the Royal Guards of Wakanda. Bede looked at her familiar face and felt a strange illusion. She looked very similar to the knife girl in The Walking Dead, same actor, just as fierce and capable, but without hair. Wakanda's Women's Guards are actually the Black Panther's harem group, which are all elite women sent from various tribes. They have both force and wisdom, and they are only loyal to the king. On the one hand, they are also to consolidate the politics of their respective tribes. Therefore, after T'Challa was defeated by the leopard in Black Panther, they chose to surrender, because strictly speaking, who is the king means little to them. First of all, they are the marriage tools of their respective tribes, and secondly, they are the king's personal guard and harem group. However, Okoi was able to stand out from so many elites and become the captain. Her methods and abilities are obviously extraordinary. This is not an easy woman, Bede concluded in his mind, and then quickly looked away. At this time, on the other side, Black Panther, Iron Man, and Captain America have already connected. Iron Man Tony Stark, Captain America Steve Rogers, may I ask why almost all the Avengers gathered in Wakanda? Black Panther looked at the two of them, but there was a secret hidden in his plain words. Front. His words vaguely revealed his understanding of the Avengers members, and he meant to tell them not to play tricks. Wakanda has an intelligence department called Pride, which does allow them to know many things happening in the world. T'Challa, we are here to ask for your help. The US team took the initiative to step forward. The cooperation over the past 2 years has kept his relationship with the Black Panthers at a good level. Ask for help? Then why bring them? Black Panther said bluntly. 2 years ago, he fought the Civil War in order to capture the Winter Soldier, and secretly helped the Underground Avengers many times in the past 2 years. Now he pretended to be indifferent on the surface, but in fact he just distanced himself from the relationship. After all, judging by their current posture, it is not the same as before. As the king of Wakanda, he is responsible for his country. Here's what happened. Captain America roughly explained the current situation. Thanos? Infinity War? Starfleet? Black Panther was a little stunned. He paused for a moment, seeming to be thinking about the authenticity of the news. After a while, he said, "Since you said it, I believe it will not be aimless. If there is anything Wakanda can do, just speak up." Saying that, he waved his hand. Behind him, the originally endless jungle suddenly shook, and a huge light curtain appeared. This is the energy barrier shrouded in Wakanda. It can not only resist the bombardment of the main guns of the interstellar warships, but also block the peripheral vision, making the world believe that Wakanda is just a third-world country dominated by agriculture and animal husbandry. At this time, a corner of the light curtain has been opened. Looking in from here, naturally it cannot block their sight. The original jungle has now turned into an endless grassland, and there is a floating airship that looks like a large pickup truck parked not far away. After Bede and the others got on the airship, and the Falcon flew in with the Quinjet fighter, the energy barrier closed again. Bede looked back and found that it was completely unaffected from the inside. He could only see a light curtain between the inside and the outside, somewhat similar to a one-way mirror. Perhaps before they saw Black Panther and the others, Black Panther and the others had already stood in the light curtain and observed them. But that's all right. After all, this is to use their homeland as the main battlefield. As the masters, they cannot be too cautious. In fact, this means that the Black Panther has a good personality. If you want to change to someone with a bad personality, who cares about your life? You know, Captain America and the others didn't tell Black Panther that he would die if he didn't participate in this war. The cargo airship under the feet may look strange in shape, but its speed is not bad, and there is a faint shimmer of light shrouded in the surroundings when flying, which directly isolates the influence of the wind. Obviously, this is another vibranium-derived technology. However, if you look down from a high altitude, you can find a very strange problem. Wakanda's technology is supposedly very high, and it is not an exaggeration to say that it is an alien civilization living on the Earth. However, the houses that Wakanda residents live in are very retro. Not only do they seem to be in line with Wakanda's identity as an alien civilization, they are not even on par with ordinary cities outside. Is there a huge gap between rich and poor in Wakanda? But that wasn't PETA's concern. They quickly flew over the outer circle, crossed a river, and entered Bonanzana, the capital of Wakanda, which looked like a real high-tech civilization. The dome-style buildings that can be seen everywhere, and the speeding express suspension trains are some extraordinary technologies. After not sighing for too long, the airship slowly landed in front of a magnificent building. Panther stepped off the airship first and made an inviting gesture. "Welcome to Wakanda." End of this chapter. Chapter 66. Please enter the urn. Chapter 66. Please enter the urn. Wanda couldn't wait to say her need. Let Wakanda help remove the Mind Stone from Vision's forehead. Black Panther took them to the research department and introduced them to his sister, Princess Shulai of Wakanda. There is also another translation called Surui, but it feels too weird. Princess Shulai not only has a noble status, but also has a very smart mind. Although she is young, she has become the leader of Wakanda's scientific research department with her real talents and knowledge. The Quinjet fighter that Beat and the others took was from her subordinates. And Beatty also knows that in the original plot, within a few years, the Black Panther will die of illness, inherit his position and become the new patron saint of Wakanda, Princess Shulai. She is also known as female Black Panther. However, compared with the skinny appearance in the movie version, Princess Shulai here looks much better. Although her figure is also a little slender, she is not thin, but not plump. And the appearance is also more refined. After all, her brother is so handsome. Obviously the royal family genes are very good. If this Princess Shulai became a female Black Panther, maybe Black Panther too would not be so badly sprayed. At this time, Vision and others had also chatted with Princess Shulai. Vision lay down on a hospital bed. I saw Princess Shulai scanned Vision's body from feet to head with the Kamoya beads on her wrist, and then focused on scanning the mind gem on her head again. Then, she turned her hand over, and an imaging diagram with the Mind Stone as its core and a thinking system that continued to expand outward appeared in her hand. "This is a polycrystalline polymorphic structure," she said with some surprise. "Your method is good. I can indeed recode them and simulate this structure, but I will lose the mysterious energy in this gem. We don't need this gem, and we don't need this energy," Wanda said decisively. In her eyes, it doesn't matter whether Vision is powerful or not, what matters is the person Vision. Vision also looked at Princess Shulai and said, "Please just start. I want to take out this gem." Princess Shulai nodded and said, "Yes, but this requires me to simulate and reprogram all 2 trillion neuron contacts, which will take a long time." "How long?" Wanda asked eagerly. Captain America patted her shoulder, signaling her to pay attention to her reaction. Wanda took a breath. After the mountain bumped a few times, she calmed down and said, "Sorry, I reacted too violently." "It's okay," Princess Shulai shook her head, "I can't say exactly how long it will take. In short, this operation requires a high degree of precision. Once you make a mistake in one of them, the entire thinking system may be disrupted." Wanda nodded and looked at Vision. Vision cast her a reassuring look. Then he looked at Princess Shulai again. "His Royal Highness, please forgive me." Princess Shulai said, "Then I'm going to prepare, let's start right away." After setting up the Vision, everyone left the medical room of the research center. They had some discussions about what to do next. First of all, Black Panther has issued a summons to all tribes in Wakanda. In this way, Wakanda's own army, the Royal Guard, and the warriors of those tribes can form a total of nearly 10,000 troops. Come! Although there are not many people, considering that almost everyone inside has 2 sets of vibrating gold weapons. This army can hang and beat the entire civilization of the Earth. A vibranium cloak that can create an energy barrier to protect oneself, and an indestructible vibranium spear that can fire energy beams. This is the standard equipment of a Wakanda warrior. Captain America looked at the corners of his mouth and wanted to shed tears of poverty. However, everyone present was more civilized and polite, and they knew Wakanda's group training the vibration gold should not be leaked, so no one proposed to buy or ask for something. Except Iron Man and Nick Fury. Iron Man has been working hard to upgrade his armor, but he has been struggling with the lack of better materials. After seeing the vibranium, he was naturally happy to see it. If he can create a set of Genjin battle armor, then his strength will get a qualitative leap. And Nick Fury is a veteran agent. When he sees such a good thing, his first reaction is how to get it. However, the current situation was critical, and he did not dare to think wrongly. The second item was proposed by the US team. He put forward an idea: since Thanos will send his Obsidian 4 to seize the infinite gems on them in the future, is there a possibility that they can use the infinite gems to set up a game? Vision cannot move, of course, and there are so many experts here in Wakanda, and there is powerful technology that can block the outside. Thanos must think twice before entering here. Therefore, one or several people need to go outside Wakanda with the Time Stone as bait. When the enemy comes, reinforcements will be sent over quickly. Using more and less, he first killed several of Thanos' generals and injured their fingers. In this way, no matter how strong Thanos' fist is, after losing a few capable men, it is like losing fingers on the fist, and his strength will be greatly weakened. The ups and downs of one another may increase some chances of winning. This method has been well received by everyone. After all, the Earth is their home field, and now with the assistance of Wakanda technology and the gathering of a lot of forces, it is completely possible to complete this operation. It's just that everyone has different opinions on who should be the bait. Captain America thinks he can be used as bait. Doctor Strange feels that he can use the power of the Time Stone, so this is the most suitable bait for him. Iron Man is also full of confidence in himself and thinks he can do the job, although he said that being a bait does not fit his status as a rich man, and it feels like the stupid son of a rich family jumped into the kidnapper's trap on his own initiative. But as a famous superhero, he is naturally unwilling to be left behind. Black Panther and Wanda didn't say anything. As the king of Wakanda, Black Panther must stay in Wakanda now, and even future support may not come. So does Wanda. Although Wakanda has an energy barrier and they are full of confidence, no one can say whether the other party has any means to come in. Vision, who is undergoing surgery, has no ability to protect himself, so Wanda naturally wants to stay and protect him. At least this way, even if all of them are dispatched by then, there will still be Wanda and Black Panther staying in Wakanda to ensure that everything is safe. In the end, they couldn't stop arguing and decided to refer to Bede's suggestion. This made Bede a little flattered. After some discussions, the result was finally reached. The US team, Bede and Iron Man, formed a combat team to serve as the bait. Among them, the US team is the main T, Bede is the assistant, and Iron Man is the output. Although Captain America is average among non-humans, with his talent to force a attack, it should be possible to hold back the attackers. Pete is Spider-Man, and an adult Spider-Man at that. Compared with the Dutch Spider, whom Iron Man knew was only a child, it was obviously much more reliable and qualified for this position. Not to mention Iron Man's output ability, he can carry, fight and support, almost omnipotent. And this plan will officially start tomorrow. Thanks to Sunboring for the 6,500 starting coin reward, to Chikubi for the 1,000 starting coin reward, and to Bookfriend 20230116145437590 for the 100 starting coin reward. End of this chapter. Chapter 67, The Ghost Woman and Number 039, S Ability. Chapter 67, The Ghost Woman's Ability. Okay, everyone, the waiter will take you to your respective rooms, everyone can take a rest, the dinner will be held in an hour. After the meeting, the Black Panther decided to do his best as a landlord. This was Bede's wish. Counting on the side of Ultimate Universe, he hasn't eaten for almost 12 hours. Oh no, at Ant-Man's house, I passed an apple on his desk and used it as a cushion. But fruit is something to eat when you are hungry, you know. Spider-Man is not from the cultivation side, so he can't eat food, and he is already hungry. It was okay to be nervous before, but now that everything is ready, I relax all of a sudden, feeling tired and hungry. Bede first followed a waiter to the room assigned to him, took a nice bath, and then changed out of his battle clothes. He has been wearing this battle suit for a whole day, and he has also experienced countless battles during the whole day, and he sweats a lot. I really can't wear it. However, when he was about to put the suit in the washing machine, he remembered that the suit had a built-in intelligent system and there were circuits in the interlayer. Wash it, it won't short-circuit, right? B patted his forehead. He actually forgot to ask Penny if the clothes could be washed in water. He knew that this suit was waterproof. After all, it was necessary to wear it in rainy weather. Penny had considered this point. But just like watches and mobile phones, waterproof is not equal to can be washed in water. These are two concepts. After much hesitation, B wrapped himself in a towel, pushed open the door, and asked the waiter waiting at the door, "Hello, do you have a dry cleaner here?" The waiter was slightly taken aback, a little surprised. Then she glanced at the battle suit in Bede's hand, with a big smile on her face. "Do you need dry cleaning? I can send it to you." Naturally, there are dry cleaning facilities in the palace. As a king, Black Panther has countless expensive clothes. And the more expensive the clothes, the more sophisticated the materials, and the cleaning methods are also very particular. Of course, except for one-time wear. "Thank you then. There are circuit components in this suit. Please let me know when you clean it," Bede ordered. "Good honored guest." The waiter raised his wrist, pressed a paging button, and then looked at Bede again. "Do you need to prepare some additional clothes for you?" "Hey? Is it okay?" Bede asked. The waiter smiled and said, "Of course, please tell me your size and it will be delivered to you soon." For Wakanda, which has a big family and a big business, a few sets of ready-made clothes are nothing at all. Since there was a large family to slaughter, B didn't refuse, and said his size again. "Fortunately, I measured it when I was making the spider suit, and it is not ambiguous to say it now." So the waiter raised his wrist again to notify him. "You can go back to your room and have a rest first. It will be delivered to you later." "Thank you." Peter returned to the room and closed the door ajar. Regarding the matter of handing over the spider suit to Wakanda for cleaning, it is actually nothing to think about it carefully. The spider suit was a treasure to him, but to Wakanda, it was nothing. It is estimated that people will look down on it. After all, Wakanda can make a suit with better performance than his spider suit in a few strokes. And Black Panther is not Iron Man or Batman next door, so if you are afraid of you, you have to make a set of anti-U armor for you. Not long after, someone delivered new clothes. Contains a complete set of clothing inside and out. Peter put it on and tried it on. Sure enough, it fits well and is comfortable. The fabric is fine and expensive. He didn't even think about changing this set of clothes before time travel. Now it was given to him by the Black Panther. "Gan, big dog, I'm really envious." Bede's idea of making money became more determined. "I just don't have any ideas yet." After another half an hour, the dry clean spider suit was also sent back. The clean spider suit not only lost the sweat smell before, but also became clean and new again, as if it was just made in the underground spider cave of the Ultimate Universe. But B didn't mean to put on the suit. Anyone who has tried it knows what it feels like to wear tights all day. Now in Wakanda, belonging to the safe zone, there is no need to wear this. He just put on the spider silk launcher, because this also has a communication function, and it is connected with the intelligent assistance system in his battlesuit. Although he brought his own mobile phone with him when he traveled, he knew everything about the security system of the mobile phone. And because of the deviation of the signals in different worlds, it is difficult for the mobile phone to connect to the internet. However, the spider silk launcher is different from the intelligent assistance system on the battlesuit. This is a dial-free device that can bypass the registration information and directly intercept the signal. It is the spider that Penny gave her after she came to this world. A little modification of the mecha. So when making Bede's spider suit, it was also applied by the way. In this way, even if he arrives in a different world, he can still retain his communication function and not lose his sight. Dong dong dong. Not long after B put on his clothes, there was a knock on the door. He opened the door and saw that it was the ghost girl. Ava, why are you here? Are you running out of energy? The ghost woman glanced at him. Can I go in? Pedro moved away. After closing the door, the two came to the living room table and sat down. Tell me, what's the matter? Bede took a closer look at her physical condition just now, and there was nothing abnormal. Obviously the quantum energy was still enough. The ghost girl said, are you really going to participate in that dangerous operation tomorrow? Yeah. Pedro subconsciously replied, wait, how do you know? Because of the identity of the ghost woman, she was not included in the previous meeting. Black Panther had a bellboy take her to her room before the meeting began. As for the ghost woman, apart from Bede, theoretically speaking, she has no trusted acquaintances. Nick Fury is familiar, but she has already judged Shield, so there is no communication between the two. As for Iron Man, Captain America, and others, it is even more impossible to talk to her about this. Who told her that? The ghost woman stretched out her hand and placed it in front of B. Then, hers suddenly disappeared. Bai Detang stood up suddenly, and said in surprise, your ability has not disappeared. The ghost woman was also a little dazed. I don't really know what's going on. I thought my ability had disappeared, but I was in the room just now and accidentally discovered that it's still there. What about your body? Pedro frowned. This kind of ghost woman who is not suffering from illness still looks normal. But no one knows if this is an appearance. He didn't want to be around someone who could go crazy at any time. End of this chapter. Chapter 68 Black Panther and number 039, S Concern. Chapter 68 Black Panther's Concern. The ghost girl said. There is no tearing feeling like before, and it is easier to control. Bede hesitated for a moment, and said, why don't you go back and let Dr. Foster check your current physical condition for you? But the ghost girl shook her head, I'm here to tell you this, not because I want you to send me back. I want you to take me with you in tomorrow's operation. Why? You also said that this action is very dangerous. They are real aliens, each of them is strong like a monster, and they may die if they are not careful. Bede persuaded. In fact, he was more puzzled. Why did this ghost girl suddenly have such a high loyalty? Could it be that his spider characteristic ability still has aura of domineering, and when the tiger's body shakes, the enemy bows when he takes his head? The ghost girl looked into Bede's eyes and said in an extremely serious tone, you don't understand the feeling of being tortured by illness for more than 20 years. Every moment at that time was hell for me. But now, everything is over and I have a new life. And it was you who gave me new life. My life is yours. In the past, I was a ghost agent of Shield. From now on, I will be your ghost guard. Pedro and Phantom looked at each other, only seeing sincerity in her eyes. Okay then, Pedro nodded. He decided to wait for a chance to talk to Bill Foster about his adopted daughter later. For him, the most important of the adoptive father and daughter is Dr. Bill Foster as the adoptive father, not some ghost guard. And having someone next to you all the time makes my scalp numb just thinking about it. For now, Pedro had to let her go. However, he didn't feel that the ghost woman could provide him with much protection in the next operation. Although I don't know how many Obsidian 4 are coming and who is coming, they are not easy to deal with. After talking with the ghost girl, it was soon time for the dinner party. 10 minutes before the dinner began, the waiter knocked on B's door. The ghost girl was not used to crowded places, so she rejected the proposal to go together and returned to her room. So Bede came to the banquet alone, led by the waiter. This was a private banquet, and Black Panther invited them to participate as a friend, so it was not big in size. But the dishes on the banquet are still very rich. Wakanda has a high-tech cultivation base, where any crops or animals can receive the most careful care, fully intelligent, so there are many ingredients that are priceless outside, but here they are just used as ordinary food. This is the productivity of technology. The unbearable hunger in his belly, coupled with the delicious food, instantly awakened the soul of dry food in Bede's heart. It's burning up. He quickly threw himself into the pile of food and began to bury his head in cooking. Iron Man and the others held their glasses of wine and ate slowly while connecting with each other. Gollum. After B swallowed a piece of spicy chicken in front of him with rice, he finally slowed down the cooking speed. This whole meal of eating and drinking directly pulled his hunger from 0 to 70, and he could eat the rest slowly. At this time, a figure came to his side. The Black Panther held a wine glass and asked with a smile, "Mr. Bede, can I sit here?" Bede raised his head, wiped his mouth, and said, "Of course, you are the master here. This is your home, of course you can sit wherever you want, why do you ask me?" Bede was speechless. The panther sat down next to Bede, and asked with a smile, "How does the home-cooked food taste?" Bede was slightly surprised, "You guys specially prepared this for me?" "Just like to eat," Black Panther said with a smile, "I heard that Mr. Bede is from Hangzhou, so I ordered them to make some. However, Hangzhou's food culture is too rich, and I am worried that what I made will not meet your appetite." Woolen cloth. Bede also smiled back and said, "Where, the cooking is very good and authentic. Isn't your chef from Hangzhou?" Black Panther shook his head and said, "That's not true, but he went to a school called New Oriental in Hangzhou for a few years, and stayed in Hangzhou for a few more years, and learned a lot of Hangzhou delicacies." A few simple words quickly narrowed the distance between the two. But B knew that the panther's sudden visit to him should have some purpose. Sure enough, after chatting nonsense for a while, the Black Panther suddenly asked, "Mr. B, they say, you are a prophet, you can predict the future." Bede frowned and said righteously, "This is a rumor. But they said that you were the first to discover this crisis and facilitated it, didn't you?" Black Panther was slightly surprised. "That's true," Bede nodded, "but I can know the future because I accidentally saw these fragments of the future when I came to this world through the quantum channel. It is not a prophetic ability." Bede didn't want to lie and sell some prophetic persona, so what was the point? From the time he appeared in this world, the future has changed, and this identity is not reliable at all. Quantum channel. Black Panther paused slightly, obviously a little surprised. No one had told him before that Bede came from other universes, and no one told him that Bede came from the quantum channel. But he didn't stop at this question, but asked another question. "Mr. Nade, have you seen the future of Wakanda?" Peda's hand paused. He put the wine glass in his hand aside, turned half around, and looked at the Black Panther. "Your Majesty, I do see some of Wakanda's future." "Please be blunt." Black Panther also noticed the change in Bede's attitude, but didn't think much about it. Wakanda has been in a self-enclosed state since a long time ago, trying its best not to contact the outside world. So much so that even the once powerful Shield and Hydra spent a lot of effort to find out about it. It was through the Crow who defected from Wakanda and stole a lot of vibration gold. I got it by mouth. T'Challa's policy is to establish communication with the outside world before changing it, and declare to the world the power of Wakanda. Although he looked very confident on the surface, he was actually very nervous in his heart. He worries that his actions will lead Wakanda to a place of no return. "Your Majesty, have you ever paid attention to your physical condition?" But Bede said something nonsensical. The Black Panther nodded and raised his hand. He wore something like a sports bracelet on his hand. This is the standard Kimoyo bracelet for Wakanda citizens. It can analyze the health status of the holder at any time and give health advice. As he spoke, Black Panther's expression changed. "You mean, my body is really good? How much time do I have?" End of this chapter. Chapter 69 Black Panther and number 039, S terminal illness. Chapter 69 Black Panther's Terminal Illness. Pedro nodded. Immediately, he looked in astonishment at the gentle and restrained king in front of him, and said in surprise, "So, you already know about your illness." In his original world, Black Panther was killed from the plot in Black Panther 2 because the actor who participated in the film died suddenly, which caused the filming plan to be suspended and a new plan had to be launched, which was to promote Black Panther's sister Shu Li. The princess ascends to the throne and becomes the female Black Panther. That is an impossible solution based on reality. In fact, there are many flaws. For example, this Kemoya bracelet allows even ordinary citizens to enjoy the benefits brought by high technology and enjoy good health and longevity. And the Black Panther, as the king, actually died of illness? Is this reasonable? But now, he is in this world. Naturally, Black Panther will not be killed due to actor issues. In other words, the Black Panther really has some kind of hidden disease that even the Kemoya bracelet can't detect. However, the Kemoya bracelet is simple after all. If you can use the high-tech equipment at the Wakanda Research Center to do a full body examination, you might be able to find the pathogen of the Black Panther. Pete originally thought so. This is mainly because when he traveled back in time, Doctor Strange 2 was only filmed in the entire Marvel system, and most of the plot of Black Panther 2 was learned online. There are actually only two things that can be determined. One is that the Black Panther got sick and died, and the other is that his sister Princess Shulai became a female Black Panther. So he only knew that Black Panther would die at some point after Avengers 4, but he didn't know exactly when. However, it now seems that Black Panther himself seems to have known about his problem, but he hid it. Black Panther nodded, his voice lowered a bit, and at the same time, the bracelet on his hand shone slightly. Although he didn't know what he did, Bede could probably sense that there seemed to be a miniature barrier in the space about 2 meters near them, which was probably used to isolate the sound. "Your Majesty the King," Black Panther said, "you should just call me T'Challa. After all, you are not my citizen, we are just friends." "Okay. T'Challa, you got it, what is the disease?" Bede struggled with his words, and now he is not sure what the situation is. If it's a disease, Wakanda's technology can even cure cancer. It can simulate the mind map constructed by the Mind Stone, which is equivalent to making a brain for vision. With such advanced medical technology, it is really hard to imagine what kind of disease makes Black Panther, the king of Wakanda, powerless and can only hide it. Black Panther said, "Since you already know, I won't hide it from you, but don't tell anyone, anyone." Peeta nodded, "I swear." Black Panther nodded, "My disease, I call it, Quantum Blood Source Failure Syndrome." Quantum Blood Source Failure Syndrome. Bede was confused. Not even him, even a professional doctor of medicine probably didn't know this term, right? Panther said, "You should know about organ failure, right?" Peeta nodded. Organ failure generally occurs in the elderly and is an important cause of death in the elderly. When people get older, their heart, kidneys, brain and other organs will gradually fail, which is a natural phenomenon. Of course, there are also some young people who will appear for various reasons. Bede has heard before that many online writers have suffered organ failure or even death due to long-term stay up late typing, irregular work and rest, unhealthy diet, etc. He also sometimes wonders if he is already dead, and now he is in his fantasy before death? Just blood failure? What are the symptoms? Is it related to blood? Black Panther explained, "More than a year ago, I accidentally discovered that my blood was continuously failing, with fewer red blood cells and less new blood. After careful research, I found that it's a pathological phenomenon that emerges from a more microscopic realm. And that realm, even Wakanda's technology, can't do anything about it. Isn't Genjin not enough?" Peeta asked doubtfully. Genjin technology is the foundation of Wakanda. This thing has beaten the civilization of the Earth for an unknown number of eras. Black Panther shook his head slightly, I have been secretly researching this year, but there is no progress. I hope you can tell me how long I have left." At this moment, Pedro stretched out his finger. A faint shimmer lit up his fingers. "To be honest, I control quantum energy. If your illness is related to this, maybe I can help." The panther was a little surprised, completely forgetting the demeanor he had been maintaining all along, and leaned in front of Bede, staring intently at his fingertips. "Is this really quantum energy?" Bede nodded. "I'm sure, this is the quantum energy I absorbed from the quantum realm. Can you give me some for research? I'm willing to pay a high price." Black Panther said. Bede smiled and said, "Tek Allah, this is too foreign. You have already said that we are friends, so we should help each other, and there is no talk about money. This thing, as long as I enter the quantum realm, you can have as much as you want." Black Panther showed a smile, and held Bede's hand together. "You are my friend forever." Pedro smiled back. Although he is short of money, perhaps with these quantum powers, he can make a fortune from the Black Panther who needs them to save his life. But money is enough. Compared to money, what he wants more is the friendship of Black Panther and the friendship of Wakanda. And now, it's clear he was right. Regardless, he's already gained Black Panther's friendship. However, quantum energy is not a panacea. This phenomenon of the Black Panther is quite different from that of the Ghost Woman. The so-called quantum blood source failure is only because the cause of his blood source failure is an extremely subtle existence. It's just a concept, not really quantum. The real quantum is a physical quantity that cannot be further reduced in physics. But B's quantum energy can provide Black Panther with a brand new way of thinking. This will be a passage that touches the microscopic realm. It may also be the cure for his terminal illness. This is actually like before the microscope, people didn't know that there were microorganisms. But one day, suddenly someone comes up with evidence and tells you, "Hey, microbes do exist." After having a real basis, it is much better to conduct research on this basis than to bump around like headless chickens. At least with the correct answer, it is enough to rule out many things. The following is not included in the text count. In the original play, Black Panther did not find Ant-Man or Dr. Pym, firstly because they were not familiar with each other, and secondly because of the situation at the time. News that the King of Wakanda was critically ill must not be leaked in advance. This is a patch for the plot design in the book. End of this chapter. Chapter 70 Black Panther and Number 039, S Secret Base. Chapter 70 Black Panther's Secret Base. Some eager panthers pulled Pete away from the banquet hall in a hurry. Although there were people who noticed them, they didn't come up to ask more questions. After wandering around for a while, Pete gradually followed the Black Panther to a relatively secluded place. Along the way, perhaps because there was no one around, Black Panther shared his thoughts with him. Black Panther speculated that the blood source exhaustion in his body might come from the heart-shaped grass they took. Although the heart-shaped grass can transform the user, possessing physical fitness and senses beyond ordinary people, etc., there is also a certain kind of poison hidden in it. For countless years, only the Black Panther family, the kings of Wakanda, has the ability to completely tame the heart-shaped grass. As for other people, even if they can take it, it is still dangerous, and the chance of sudden death is extremely high. Unless there is a way. That is, under the witness of the Black Panther God, the person who defeated the Black Panther family upright and became the new king of Wakanda. In this way, you can also get the blessing of the Black Panther God and successfully consume the heart-shaped grass. However, the poison in the heart-shaped grass has been fused into the blood of the Black Panther family for generations. In other words, rather than saying that they tamed the heart-shaped grass, it is better to say that the Black Panther family has adapted to this poison. Under normal circumstances, this violent poison has no negative effects on them, except that every Black Panther must drink potion after reaching a certain age to remove the effect of the heart-shaped herb in the body. This is also the reason why T'Challa's father, T'Chaka, was killed by a terrorist bomb as a former Black Panther. Because he has reached his age, he has returned to an ordinary person, and he no longer wears the Black Panther suit. Otherwise, with the Black Panther's reaction speed, even if he is old and wearing the Black Panther suit, he will not be killed by the bomb. Judging from the continuation of the Black Panther family for so many years, the probability of the poison in the heart-shaped grass breaking out is extremely small. However, T'Challa happened to run into this extremely small probability. This is probably the only part of the Black Panther family for so many years. No wonder he couldn't do anything about it. If Bede hadn't just possessed quantum energy and pointed out the field of microscopic particles for him, I'm afraid that the remaining time would not be enough for him to research some clues. According to Black Panther's own research, he may die of blood source failure in as long as 5 years or as short as tomorrow. Perhaps in the original timeline, the Black Panther knew this, so he simply didn't care about it, and spent his last life on the cause of Wakanda. After all, apart from his own life, the most important thing to him, the King of Wakanda, is Wakanda. No, maybe Wakanda is more important to him than his own life. In the Panther's narration and Bede's listening, the Panther finally stopped. Bede knew his destination had been reached. This appears to be behind the palace of Wakanda. Unlike the previous buildings full of sense of technology, coming here is like returning to the barbaric era, surrounded by uncarved primitive rocks. The Panther walked towards a mountain wall. Wait, Bede's eyes widened at this déjà vu, and the Black Panther's back and Aunt May gradually overlapped in front of him. Really? The Black Panther stretched out his hand and pressed somewhere on the mountain wall, and the originally unpretentious mountain wall burst into light. Subsequently, these rays of light converged into a pattern of a leopard head. The mountain wall opened. "Come in," Black Panther made a gesture of invitation. Peeta followed suit. The sense of sight is stronger, right? But the next scene was different from that of the ultimate spider. When Bede and the Panther stood still, there was a slight shake, and Bede felt that they began to move rapidly. It should be horizontal. Obviously this is a secret base dug in the mountains, not extending underground. And under his feet, if he guessed correctly, it should be some kind of high-speed magnetic levitation device. This also means that this secret base is much deeper than he imagined. It may be built directly against that kind of nuclear defense base. And it must be higher than the defense level of the anti-nuclear base. Now that Bede has been brought here, Black Panther obviously didn't hide his intentions. He introduced, "This is a secret base that only the kings of Wakanda can use." Bede said quickly, "I promise I won't reveal it." Black Panther smiled slightly, "If I was worried about this, I wouldn't have brought you here." With a slight collision sound, there was a faint sense of forward leaning. Only then did Bede see the whole picture of the secret base exclusive to the King of Wakanda. What you see in the center is a huge leopard. This is Buster, the leopard god mainly believed in Wakanda. It is said that the power of the Black Panther family comes from this. Bede didn't linger too much on this engraving. His eyes quickly scanned the other furnishings inside. Everything from ancient-style spears to modern equipment that is clearly vibranium weapons. Bede speculates that these may be weapons used by the Black Panthers in the past. Obviously, in addition to being the Black Panther's private territory, this secret base also functions as a king's tomb. However, the most conspicuous thing in front of him is still a machine that looks like a hibernation cabin in a science fiction work. Black Panther walked to the device and said, "The name of this thing is the Cradle of Regeneration, which was once used by the Avengers. I bought it from Dr. Zhao a year ago and wanted to use it to heal my body, but unfortunately, it didn't work." Suddenly Bede realized. No wonder he found it so familiar. It turns out that this is the thing that appeared in Avengers 2. In the plot of Avengers 2, Hawkeye was severely injured when fighting Ultron. At this time, a female doctor named Zhao Halen and her work Cradle of Regeneration appeared on the stage. It demonstrated a technology called nanomedicine, which successfully helped Hawkeye repair the damaged internal organs and saved his life. Black Panther obviously made some modifications to the regeneration cradle, making it somewhat different from the original one, so Bede couldn't recognize it at first. But it's a pity that the principle of using this thing is still only at the molecular level, and it can't go deep into a deeper level. No matter how modified it is, unless its working range can be expanded to the atomic, subatomic, or even lower levels, it will still be of no use against blood source failure. Because from a molecular point of view, the body of the panther is very healthy, even stronger than 99.999% of the people in the world. What is it going to fix? While B was looking at the contents of the room, the panther opened one side of the regeneration cradle. If possible, please put some quantum energy in here. End of this chapter. Chapter 71 The Hope of Life. Chapter 71 The Hope of Life. This was what he came here to do, so Bede naturally stretched out his hand without any hesitation, mobilized the quantum energy in his body, and poured it into the container of the regeneration cradle. This container was originally used to store the nano-restoration for treatment, but the nano-restoration was taken out by the Black Panther, and now it is naturally used to store quantum energy. Black Panther didn't say how much to inject, and Bede didn't ask. Black Panther believes that quantum energy is very precious. After all, the quantum realm is a very mysterious existence even for Wakanda. And because Bede could easily obtain quantum energy and had the ability to enter and exit the collection, he naturally didn't care too much about this. So Peter used too much force. Boom! The container hummed, as if it was about to explode. The panther was taken aback when he saw this, and then quickly grabbed Bede. Stop, stop, enough is enough, there are too many. Bede quickly stopped the energy injection. Fortunately, they all responded quickly enough. Although the container looked a little overwhelmed just now, it is high-tech that has been strengthened by Wakanda, so it is not like this will cause problems. A tube of something with dreamy colors appeared in the container. It looks like light, but also like fog. Even if ordinary people can see it, they can't touch it. The Black Panther's face was filled with uncontrollable joy. When he saw this quantum energy so intuitively, he became more confident in curing his illness. Griot, analyze this energy, and reprogram the repair container subroutine of Cradle of Regeneration. Black Panther said to the air. Okay, Your Majesty the King. A voice sounded abruptly. Immediately afterwards, Regeneration Cradle started to run automatically. A trace of quantum energy was poured out of the container, which seemed to lead to an analysis instrument not far away. A comfortable smile appeared on Black Panther's face. Thank you, B. Bede waved his hand. It's good if I can help. Can I watch here? To be honest, I only discovered this special power not long ago, and it's very rough to grasp, so I want to know more about it. Of course, that's exactly what I mean. Black Panther laughed. He was already wondering whether Lubid would be too much trouble for him here. After all, he had already asked Bede so much precious quantum energy. Isn't it too rude to make excessive demands now? But quantum energy was new territory for Bede, and for Black Panther, it was their first experience. With Bede as the master here, he felt much more at ease. As for B, of course he wanted to take the opportunity to study some derivative uses of quantum energy so as to prepare for the upcoming battle. Although he had a Dr. Bill Foster who promised to help him, that one would help, at least until after this war was fought. To put it more bluntly, I can't count on him for the time being. Now that he has the opportunity to learn, he will naturally not miss it. In the following period of time, Bede was greatly surprised by what he saw and heard in this secret base. Including Bede, most people's impression of the Black Panther is a majestic king and a powerful warrior. But they all overlooked one point. That's the wisdom of Black Panther. Through this short period of contact, Bede discovered that the Black Panther's technological capabilities were not inferior to his leadership and combat effectiveness. Black Panther can skillfully use various scientific research devices in the laboratory that Bede cannot understand. On this side, he first projected a 3D model of himself using 3D virtual imaging technology, and then stripped out all the blood vessels and spinal cord of the whole body and other parts related to blood. Then he went to the other side, looked at the preliminary analysis of quantum energy listed by Griot, and conducted further planning and research. In the huge laboratory, there are busy figures of Black Panthers. And it can be clearly seen that he is very organized in doing things. There is a rhythm that is busy but not chaotic. Seeing that he was so involved, Bede didn't bother him, he just watched from a distance to avoid affecting him. But this didn't stop him from observing. As Spider-Man, his eyesight has been greatly enhanced along with his physical fitness. There is not much difference between standing on the side and watching here. Oh, by the way, I forgot to introduce the other person who is now in this secret base. Through this period of observation, Bede was surprised to find that this should be an artificial intelligence not inferior to Iron Man's Jarvis and Friday. Black Panther named it Glio. This is actually a very poetic name. In the Aboriginal language of He Is Who, it is a general term used to refer to the occupations of poets, writers, artists, and luthiers handed down from generation to generation. In ancient times, Griot would enter the court and serve as the historian, advisor, messenger, etc. of the king or chiefs. The same is true for the artificial intelligence Glio's status in Wakanda. With the help of Griot, Panther processed information extremely quickly. Countless formulas jumped out of his fingertips and jumped into the program as if he didn't need to think about it. About 2 hours later, when it was probably late at night outside, the Black Panther suddenly woke up from his research. B noticed that a machine that had been running at high speed for a long time just stopped. Black Panther walked to the machine, and the machine opened a hole, and a small petri dish popped out. In the petri dish is a thing like a leaf fiber. It's very thin, so you need to use very small tweezers to hold it carefully, and then use a magnifying glass to observe it. The panther carefully placed it on the glass slide, with his entire face close to it, sizing it up carefully, as if he was looking at some peerless treasure. Bede also took a few steps closer and looked at it curiously. Did you research it so quickly? Black Panther made some room, but shook his head. Of course not, I just verified an idea. Oh. Bede became interested. To be honest, he really didn't understand what the Black Panther was doing just now. Black Panther was also happy to share his results with Bede. After a gesture, he said, after preliminary analysis of quantum energy, I found that this quantum energy can be used as a coupling agent. Place it between some protons and neutrons, and then apply a small amount of energy. They can be quickly coupled together to form a special subatomic structure. Subsequently, I simulated the data of the heart-shaped grass and successfully used these quantum energy to couple the subatoms to create a tree similar to the heart-shaped grass. The leaf fibers are 99% similar to villi. There was a hint of excitement in his tone. No one can understand better than him what this means. This means that he can use these quantum energies to make something like medicine, enter his body, and then couple all the poisons hidden in the blood source in this way, and completely excrete them from the body. And this is the cure. There is hope for the Black Panther. End of this chapter. Chapter 72 Quantum Spider Silk. Chapter 72 Quantum Spider Silk. Black Panther's cure plan was better than he originally imagined. Because he never thought that quantum energy could be used as a coupling agent. In the past, he couldn't do anything about the blood-derived poison in his body because the blood-derived poison was hidden too deeply. The panther just knew that there was such a thing that would kill him, but he couldn't observe it at all. And when it is difficult to even observe it, let alone a targeted cure. But now, thanks to quantum energy, new solutions are emerging. There is no need to spend a lot of time observing the blood source poison. He only needs to target the two main directions where the blood-borne poison is located, the spinal cord and the blood. Using quantum energy, we first remove the substances that exist in the blood to ensure that they will not be coupled. Otherwise, the blood will coagulate and the Black Panther will die on the spot. Afterwards, he comprehensively analyzed the data on the heart-shaped grass and found several things that might be related to blood-borne poisons, and listed them as the main directions of action of quantum energy medicines. Finally, the 2 quantum energy medicines for the spinal cord and blood are successfully synthesized and used. You're done. He originally thought that if he just wanted to use quantum energy, he could directly output it and get it into the Black Panther's body to heal him all at once. But knowing that there are still so many ways in it, Pedro dismissed the idea. Obviously, the disease of the Black Panther is completely different from that of the ghost woman. At the same time, Black Panther's explanation also made Bede realize, quantum energy is a double-edged sword. It can not only be used to strengthen oneself and even save people, but it can also harm people and even kill enemies. It seems that quantum energy cannot be used casually for people in the future, at least not directly for the body. Bede thought to himself. He was secretly glad that the ghost girl's symptoms were within the healing range of quantum energy. If not, then the ghost girl might have died suddenly at that time. At the same time, he also had 2 new ideas about his abilities. The first thought comes up when Black Panther explains that quantum energy creates fluff by coupling matter. Remember what I said earlier, how is spider silk formed? See the end of 27 and the beginning of 28 for details. Since quantum energy has the ability to directly couple matter to form a substance after being separated from the body in a certain way, can he also use this principle to create his own quantum spider silk? Imagine not needing anything, not even silk that's purposely launched from your hand. This is not much different from him being able to produce spider silk himself. From a scientific point of view, the self-producing silk types such as the Toby spider and the shadow spider have some mutated organs in the body that can produce spider silk mucus. But Bede uses every cell in his body as a storage container. Theoretically speaking, the storage capacity is at least dozens of times that of theirs. The only downside is probably the need to replenish energy. However, he has already made preparations for energy replenishment, and normally speaking, it is not a big problem. The second idea is also based on the coupling ability of quantum energy. But it comes from the treatment plan Black Panther said. If he pours this unprocessed quantum energy into someone else's body and blood in an instant, can he use the quantum energy to directly cause the other person's blood to clot, their skin and flesh to become stiff, or even to die on the spot? However, the practicality of this method has yet to be verified. It is useless against ordinary people. To deal with masters, he is not sure whether it will work or not. When the thought came up, it seemed to be a blessing to the heart, and a feeling appeared naturally in Bede's mind. He had heard a saying before. Every Spider-Man, when he becomes a Spider-Man, will automatically comprehend a formula of his own spider silk. Quantum energy and matter generate quantum spider silk under the coupling effect, which is his spider silk formula. He stretched out his hand and pointed it at the ground. Call out. Quantum energy is ejected linearly, quickly combined with many substances in the air, and becomes solid in a very short time. A thin thread fell to the ground. But it doesn't come from the web shooter, it's Pedro's wrist. The reason for choosing this place is naturally a matter of habit. He reached out and pinched this spider silk, and found the difference between his own spider silk and ordinary spider silk. First of all, his quantum spider silk should be thinner and lighter, but its toughness is not low. Even the most basic version can support 1 or 2 people doing pendulum movements without any problem. Moreover, he can also feel that as long as he adds the amount of output quantum energy, he can make the spider silk longer, thicker, and so on. Moreover, probably because quantum energy is too subtle in the current material world, it is almost impossible for air to create resistance against it. Therefore, it also has an extended feature. That is fast. Almost as soon as Bede had a thought, the end of the quantum energy had already reached the position he wanted, and then took shape at an extremely fast speed. What if instead of choosing the long-term method, it becomes something like spider web bomb? Didn't that become an instant hit? Thinner, lighter, faster, and adjustable, these are the characteristics of his exclusive quantum spider silk. It can be said that these characteristics alone have defeated a large number of Spider-Man's synthetic spider silk. Spider silk is one of the important means of Spider-Man, and its importance to Spider-Man is self-evident. The next thing has nothing to do with bead. The prerequisites are basically unlocked, and all that remains is to conduct model reasoning, turn theory into practice, and produce finished products. In fact, these things can be handed over to Griot. However, in order to see the finished product earlier, the Panther stayed. Pedro went back to his room. He wants to experiment with quantum spider silk first. At least you have to be proficient in using it first. Shhhhhh. Balls of white viscous liquid spurted out from Bead's hand and landed on the ground, walls, and ceiling. Not long after, the room was filled with a bunch of spider webs. Pedro wove a web out of spider silk, climbed up and lay down. It's not that he doesn't like sleeping in bed, or that he has awakened some strange attributes. Simply because he had mastered the use of quantum spider silk, he naturally liked it. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Boom! Bead just thought it was the ghost woman coming again. He landed on the floor and opened the door, only to see an unexpected figure. Doctor Strange, why are you here? Please come in, Pedro stepped aside. Doctor Strange walked into the room and stared blankly at the spider webs all over the room. Afterwards, he ignored these things as if nothing had happened, walked directly to the sofa and sat down. End of this chapter. Chapter 73 The Eye of Agamotto. Chapter 73 The Eye of Agamotto. I'm here to talk to you, Doctor Strange said. Talk. With an awkward smile on his face, B took off a few spider threads from the table, crumpled them up and threw them into the trash can. Doctor Strange held out his hand and said, I'm here to deliver this. This is the time stone. Bede was slightly startled, somewhat confused by Doctor Strange's actions. What appeared in front of him was an eye-shaped necklace. That is the Eye of Agamotto. In the comics, it was acquired by Doctor Strange from Agamotto, the all-seeing being from another dimension, and was really Agamotto's eyeball. In this movie universe, it is the container of the Time Stone. It was originally owned by the Ancient One. After the Ancient One died, it was passed to Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange's ability to observe the past and the future is achieved by using it. However, its famous battle was actually when Doctor Strange fought against Dormammu. Doctor Strange was vulnerable to Dormammu and almost died upon meeting him. But with the Eye of Agamotto, he was resurrected again and again. In the end, Dormammu was forced to compromise and could only negotiate terms with him. According to the plan, Doctor Strange will give it to Bede for temporary safekeeping until the start of the plan tomorrow. Because Iron Man wants to be the DPS and Captain America wants to be the main tank, the only suitable person is Bede, a superhuman warrior who specializes in agility. Doctor Strange didn't say anything superfluous. He handed the Eye of Agamotto to Bede and asked him to carry it with him before leaving here. Only the uneasy Bede was left, fidgeting in the room. He held the Eye of Agamotto in his hand and played with it repeatedly. In fact, if you just look at it this way, it is an antique piece of art, a bit like Hero's style. But when he thought that what he was holding was the Time Stone, which was almost one of the highest level treasures in the single universe, Bede's heart began to beat violently. At a certain moment, he even had the greed to take it for himself. But soon he suppressed this greed. Let's not talk about how low the chance of him getting this thing from Doctor Strange is, infinitely close to zero. This is a number Bede thinks is very accurate. Even if he gets it, he doesn't know magic. Let alone the unsealing spell of the Eye of Agamotto. After thinking about this clearly, the temptation of this thing for him plummeted. Then, another idea naturally came to his mind. Why would Doctor Strange give it to himself now? No, in fact, he felt weird even when Doctor Strange agreed to take out the time stone as bait in the first place. Because the Eye of Agamotto is precious not only because it is a time stone and has the power to control time, but also because it is a symbol of the Supreme Mage. Having it is almost equivalent to being the Supreme Mage. How could he take out such an important thing with confidence? And it was also designated to be handed over to Bede for safekeeping. Reminiscent of Doctor Strange's attitude towards his inexplicable change, Bede had a guess in his mind. Could it be that Doctor Strange saw something from the future picture that made him so tolerant? Wait, I won't be the one who snaps my fingers in the end, right? Bede thought of the inexplicable glance that Doctor Strange showed to Iron Man in Avengers 3 after watching the movie 1,400,605 times. Shudder. Mad, how could I do such a thing? Moreover, if that time really comes, doesn't it mean that Thanos has collected all 6 gems without any risk? They prepared so much more than in the original book this time, but they still came to that step? Bede felt that he could not accept it rationally. It was even more unacceptable than the fact that he had such a realization in the end. It should be something else, right? Bede thought to himself and found a reason to convince himself. But a seed has been planted. It is unknown whether it will be drowned by a heavy rain like the seeds of infatuation, or whether it will take root and sprout in the moisture of rain and dew like the seeds of hope. At this moment, there was a melody echoing in his mind. No one sleeps tonight. No. Yes, he is the only one who can't sleep tonight. The next day, beyond, only to realize that he had been lying on the floor at some point. He went to the bathroom to wash his face and his mind became clearer before he remembered why he fell asleep while lying on the floor. He had been thinking about Doctor Strange's various weird performances last night, and the more he thought about it, the more something was wrong. Then I couldn't sleep. After all, I suddenly found out that I might lose my life in the future, so how could I sleep soundly? So he crawled onto the spider web that he had woven. I don't know how long it took before he finally fell asleep, directly on the spider web. In the middle of the night, the spider silk dissolved and disappeared, and he fell naturally. Because the height of just a few meters did not pose any threat to his life, the spider sense was not triggered. It doesn't even hurt. He didn't wake up either. As for the Eye of Agamotto, he hung it on his chest like a necklace. Bede wiped his face and said, "No, I have to ask him for details." After making up his mind, Bede walked out with majestic steps. He found that there was still a waiter at the door, but it was not the one from yesterday. Maybe it's shift work. Let me ask, which room does Doctor Strange, who came with me, live in? The waiter said, "The Doctor Strange you are talking about, is he the mage-like gentleman in a cloak?" Yes, the people in Wakanda have obviously done their homework for these waiters, and Bede is not surprised that they know how they dress. The waiter said, "A few minutes ago, he already went to the direction of the restaurant, do you want to go there now?" "Oh, I'll go there myself, thank you," Bede said. As expected, the waiter did not insist. They had been told to let these people do whatever they wanted to do. Even if they want to cause destruction, these waiters can't stop them. Soon, Bede met Doctor Strange in the restaurant. When I saw him, he was chatting with Iron Man. The two middle-aged people chatted unexpectedly. Just listen to Iron Man say, "Actually, I was supposed to be on my honeymoon with Pepper. She said yesterday that she would bake pizza for me to eat my pizza tonight." Doctor Strange asked, "Didn't your wife object to you becoming Iron Man before, but now she doesn't? How did you convince her to marry you?" Iron Man looked at him and said seriously, "Because of love." "Archmage, don't you have a lover?" "Doctor Strange?" Iron Man shrugged, "I'm sorry, I forgot that you should have the right commandments not to get close to women, right? Doctor Strange?" End of this chapter. Chapter 74 Action begins. Chapter 74 Action begins. Doctor Strange's face darkened suddenly. He wanted to rebut but didn't know where to start. After becoming a sorcerer, he really has a lot of desires. Even with his female friend Christine Palmer, whom he had always had a crush on, he basically cut off contact. But he just couldn't stand Iron Man's tone of "I have a beautiful wife and you don't, no way, why don't you?" Captain America said, "I didn't expect Pepper to agree to marry you. In fact, I always thought that you guys would congratulate you in the end, Tony. Tony, we know that you are very happy to be married to Pepper, but you have been showing off for more than a month, can you take a break?" War Machine on the side also persuaded. Iron Man shrugged his shoulders, "Am I showing off? What I'm talking about are just ordinary things about loving couples." Doctor Strange, the fist is hard. Captain America. Repay kindness with revenge? Now even War Machine couldn't stand it anymore. He pointed to Iron Man and said to the others, "Why don't you beat him up?" Fortunately, both parties were mature middle-aged people, so they didn't really get involved in the end. B also came nearby at this time. Hearing Iron Man's words, although he was speechless, he suddenly understood why he didn't call Iron Man before. It turned out to be because of this. At this time, Iron Man is no longer the playboy he was at the beginning. She and Pepper Potts announced their marriage at the end of Spider-Man: Homecoming and got married last month. After marriage, he became a good man who took care of his family. If nothing else, Pepper should be pregnant by now. Because 5 years after the original timeline, Iron Man's daughter Morgan Stark was 4 years old, so it is basically certain that she was born next year. It is even possible that when Iron Man got on the spaceship in the original plot, Pepper wanted to tell him about it when he received a call from Pepper. It just happened that the spacecraft left the Earth and the signal was interrupted. However, whether Pepper is pregnant or not, it doesn't affect Iron Man's love for her. Bede sat down beside Doctor Strange, took a loaf of bread from the table and ate it. There are so many people out there right now, so it's naturally not the right time to ask questions. Everyone chatted while eating, and the atmosphere was surprisingly good. Obviously, many of them are meeting for the first time. This is probably the same as before. After breakfast, while everyone was leaving, Bede finally found a chance to be alone with Doctor Strange, and asked the question he had been holding back all night. "What the hell did my future self do? I know you saw something, right? Did I snap my fingers with the Infinity Gauntlet?" However, Doctor Strange was only slightly taken aback, but he didn't answer Bede directly, but just smiled lightly. Some things are really hard to think of without personal experience. After saying that, he left alone. "Bede, can the Riddler get out of Wakanda?" But Doctor Strange's words made him taste something. It seemed as though he might or almost should have actually done that. Even if he didn't do it, he must have done something similar. Bede patted his head, becoming more and more curious about what the future would be like, that he would actually reach that point. After breakfast, Bede, Iron Man, and Captain America set off. The location they chose to fight was the Avengers' new headquarters in New York. This is where Bede and others first met Iron Man and War Machine. The reason why this place was chosen is naturally not because New York is the center of the Marvel world, but because the new Avengers headquarters is the home base of Iron Man. Here, there are not only his steel unmanned formations, but also an armed satellite loaded with countless weapons flying overhead. As long as the opponent dares to come, Iron Man will dare to show his cards and fight with the opponent. Naturally, Captain America doesn't care, as long as he has a shield, it doesn't matter where he goes to fight. Last night, Wakanda's scientific research department temporarily added a small team to make a shield for him out of vibranium, which basically copied the shape of the one he used before. Perhaps if nothing else happened, the shield would be given to him directly. Although Wakanda has always adhered to the concept of not leaking vibranium, they are not really stubborn. They are just afraid of affecting the outside world. For some people they trust, it's just a little bit of vibranium, it's nothing. Doctor Strange drew a circle. The three of Beat appeared at the Avengers headquarters outside New York, tens of thousands of kilometers away. Once back, Iron Man gets busy. He first used his current position to disperse those who stayed here. Of course, it is impossible for the huge Avengers headquarters to have only a few superheroes. In fact, there are hundreds of logistics teams behind them, including scientific research, medical treatment, etc., intelligence, support, etc. But for the next battle against the generals, their staying here is of little significance, and they may be accidentally injured instead. Subsequently, Iron Man asked his assistant to take over the defense of the entire base on Friday, and was directly connected to the armed satellites in the sky. The armed satellite has directly entered the state of combat readiness, and all launch ports are on standby to ensure that things can be delivered in the shortest time after the order is issued. It is worth mentioning that in the afternoon, the old Secretary of State came again. He asked Iron Man to hand over Captain America. But not long after he came, he was chased away by Iron Man. Iron Man is not a war machine. After all, War Machine is a member of the system, so it's not easy to confront him. But Iron Man doesn't have so many scruples. After all, apart from his Avengers identity, he is also a rich man himself. Given the national conditions here, as long as Iron Man doesn't go too far, no one dares to do anything to him. So he was thrown out by Iron Man again. And Iron Man simply ignored his threat. A frame of icy steel mechas was sent out by him, and deployed around the base of the Avengers. This made the soldiers dispatched to capture Captain America look at each other in blank dismay. Everyone knows the reputation of Iron Man, and he is trying to fight them. Who dares to go up and die again? As for Iron Man, Captain America, and BD in the base, they didn't bother to care about what happened outside the base. The US team is doing physical training, which is his daily routine. Bede continued to work on his newfound quantum abilities. In addition to Quantum Spider Silk, he named another ability Quantum Sting. In his opinion, the method of injecting quantum energy into other people's bodies to attack is actually similar to a poisonous thorn. The only difference is that his stinger can theoretically come out from anywhere and can control its direction freely. In this way, the day passed. It's the scheduled time for Obsidian 4 to come. End of this chapter. Chapter 75 Obsidian 4 is coming. Chapter 75 Obsidian 4 is coming. One day ago. Somewhere in space at the edge of the heliosphere within the solar system. Ripples suddenly appeared in the void. Immediately afterwards, a circular spaceship tore through the void and landed here. Then, it flew quickly towards the Earth. In just one day, it crossed 45 billion kilometers and came outside the Earth's atmosphere. At the same time, several forces on the Earth that are closely watching the changes in the space around the Earth cheered up. Wakanda. The huge combat hall was full of people. There are not only former Avengers members such as Black Widow, Falcon, and Hawkeye who was brought here yesterday, but also members of several tribes to which Wakanda belongs. The internal situation in Wakanda is actually quite complicated. It is a country with a tribal union system, mainly composed of 5 tribes, the Black Panther royal family, the White Ape tribe, Jabari tribe, the Border tribe, the River tribe, and the Merchant tribe. But in fact, the other 3 tribes are all really backward tribes, and they seem to be very poor. They actually exist more as a real barrier between Wakanda and the outside world. That is, through them, to create an illusion that Wakanda is poor to the outside world. The only exception is the White Ape tribe. The White Ape tribe believes in Hanuman, the god of the White Ape, and worships the White Ape totem, which is completely opposite to the Black Panther, and is therefore rejected. But Mbaku, the leader of the White Ape tribe, is a warrior in Wakanda who is second only to the contemporary Black Panther T'Challa, and is known as the Human Ape. M'Baku challenged T'Challa at the ceremony where T'Challa inherited the throne of Wakanda a few years ago, but he did not win. Afterwards, T'Challa was challenged by his cousin Leopard, and was finally defeated and knocked off a cliff. It was M'Baku who found and brought him back. In the end, it was also with the help of M'Baku that T'Challa was able to regain the throne and succeed the Black Panther. It is precisely because of this that the White Ape tribe has gained the friendship of the Black Panther and has the right to equip Genjin equipment. This aspect was not shown in the original drama, but if you look carefully at Avengers 3, you will find that the people of the other three tribes it basically didn't come, only the two-piece vibrating gold set of the White Ape tribe, together with the Wakanda Kingdom Guard. This is obviously a power deal reached in Black Panther 1. The Black Panther royal family recognizes the independence of the White Ape tribe, including the Genjin armed forces and the army. The White Ape tribe surrendered to the Black Panther royal family and needed to be dispatched by the Black Panther royal family. The people who were transferred this time were actually mainly people from the White Ape tribe. Together with Wakanda's own army, a total of 1 fighters were assembled. In comparison, even if people from several other tribes have acquired vibranium equipment, their military literacy and other aspects cannot be developed in a day or two. Wakanda's somewhat pathological structure exposed his inner weakness to a group of superheroes. Some of them had ulterior motives and secretly wrote them down. An alien spaceship broke through the atmosphere, and it's Thanos' hand, shouted one of those monitoring the outer atmosphere. Wakanda has placed monitors at several places in the Earth's atmosphere to monitor alien visitors, and locked the alien spacecraft almost as soon as it appeared. Black Panther looked at the screen calmly. The appearance of the alien spaceship is projected on it. It was a spaceship that looked like a tire. A line of light flashed rapidly on the tire core, forming its own gravity ring. It tore through the air in an incomprehensible way with conventional technology, broke through layers of sound barriers without even causing much movement, and descended at an extremely fast speed over the new headquarters of the Avengers Alliance outside New York. Swish! A beam of light was projected down and landed on the grass, and 2 figures, one burly and one thin, walked out of the beam of light. That thin figure has a body similar to that of a normal person, except that the skin on his face is like grey stone, and even has albino spots, making him look extremely ugly. But he is one of the most powerful wizards in the universe. Even Doctor Strange at this stage was no match for him and was captured alive by him in a head-on confrontation. As for the other Chaos Mage, Wanda, he is still a novice in magic, and his combat power is purely based on the strength of chaos magic. Compared with the two of them, Ebony Maw, who has lived for who knows how many years, is much more accomplished in magic. In the original plot, he was the only son of Thanos who almost successfully brought back the infinite gems for Thanos. It was only because of the father and son combination of Iron Man and Dutch Spider that they were tricked, which led to the failure in the end. The burly figure beside him was named Black Dwarf. He was 3 meters tall, with muscles all over his body. He was also wearing a suit of well-fitting armor, and he was holding a giant scythe in his hand that looked heavy at first glance. However, compared to Ebony Throat, this one's performance was much hotter, all kinds of embarrassing. Not to mention, the two stood on one left and one on the right. Ebony Throat folded his hands and palms in front of him, like an old-school gentleman, showing his elegance. Black Dwarf crossed his feet, and slammed the giant sickle on the ground, smashing a big hole in the soft grass. On this side, Bede, Iron Man, and Captain America had already come out, standing opposite the two of them 7 or 8 meters apart, confronting them. Seeing Black Dwarf's actions, Iron Man said, "Big guy, it's very rude of you to come here uninvited, and you also casually destroy other people's turf. Don't all interstellar citizens have any sense of shame?" Ebony Throat glanced at Iron Man indifferently, and then set his eyes on Bede. More precisely, on Peeta's chest. At this time, Bede was naturally already dressed in his combat uniform. Because he was afraid that the eye of Agamotto would be affected by its dangling movements, he simply stuffed it into his suit so that it would bulge just above his chest. Well, it looks a bit like salted egg Superman. As far as I know, the time stone should be in the hands of an earth mage named Stephen Strange or Ancient One. Who are you? Ebony Maw asked. Oh, I'm the Strange you're talking about, Bede replied. Then without waiting for Ebony Maw to speak, he asked back, I answered a question for you, I wonder if you can also answer a question for me. I think as a noble son of Thanos, I would not even give up this simple courtesy no. Ebony Throat said, although I know you are lying, as a thank you gift for bringing me the time stone, I can answer you a question. Just tell me. Where are Proxima Centauri and General Deathblade? Bede asked, the son of Thanos must not learn from us lowly Earth humans and have bad habits of lying. End of this chapter. Chapter 76 Crisis? Chapter 76 Crisis? Of course they're where they should be, perhaps caught by Peeta's words, Ebony Throat did not lie, but what he said was just nonsense. Obviously he didn't want to reveal the actions of the other two Obsidian generals. On the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, in Wakanda in the north-central part of the Black Continent. When the Black Panther heard this, he said, open the energy barrier at full power and put all parts into combat mode to prevent all possible enemies. Although this was not the plan that was agreed at the beginning, smart people knew Bede's intention to test these two positions. The couple who were originally sent to attack Wanda and Vision to seize the Soul Gem, now that they have been transferred to Wakanda, they have lost their predictability of their location. They may have appeared near Wakanda. It could also be on Bede's side. So the Panther immediately raised Wakanda's defense level. With his order, some mountains near the Wakanda energy barrier began to tremble, and forts full of sci-fi colors appeared. The styles of these forts are very strange, in fact, they are giant vibrating gold spears one by one. The huge size increases the energy beams they emit proportionally, turning them into energy cannons. And just when Wakanda turned on the energy shield to the maximum power, on the other side, the alien battleship that was originally suspended in the air disappeared. Outside New York City, the new headquarters of the Avengers, on the lawn. Iron Man looked up at the disappearing battleship, and already had the answer in his heart. He looked at the two Obsidian generals in front of him and said, it seems that we are in big trouble. Captain America silently put the shield in front of him, and said, have we seen less trouble? Bede said, I don't have a problem, I've seen ones crazier than this one. Then, let's go. The two teammates were extremely powerful, making Iron Man feel the solidity of his back. Especially Pede, the Spider-Man. Due to the unreliability of the Dutch spider, although there was a little improvement in the end, but not much, he cared more about the Dutch spider than he trusted it. Because of this, he always subconsciously has a feeling of distrust for B, who is also Spider-Man. Mainly due to distrust in strength. But now, he has a little more confidence. In the event of a change in the plan, he can still be calm and composed. This mentality alone is much better than the child he cared for. Iron Man stepped forward, and a bunch of particles scattered from the back of the iron armor. They floated behind him and turned into 4 energy-gathering arcs. Call out! Together with Iron Man's outstretched hands, a total of 6 high-energy beams shot towards Ebony Maw and Black Dwarf. The Black Dwarf roared and rushed over without thinking, but was pushed back by the kinetic energy contained in the gathered high-energy beams. Behind him, Ebony Throat stretched out his hand speechlessly, and waved it lightly. Boom! The tall body of the Black Dwarf flew out sideways, plowing out a large piece of soil on the grass. Captain America looked at Ebony Throat, who was standing still and didn't even move, and swallowed, the mage didn't come, how can we fight this thing? Before that, Bede had told them about the characteristics and possible abilities of the 4 generals of Obsidian, so they all knew that the guy who had mastered the mysterious magic in front of them was not something they could deal with. I'm coming. Iron Man changed the direction of the muzzle, ready to repeat the trick. However, boom! The ground under his feet was torn apart, and Iron Man flew into the sky, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Immediately afterwards, with Ebony Throat's 2 fingers together, the road not far away was shattered into pieces suspended in the air, and then turned into sharp stone thorns one after another, shooting towards Bede and Captain America. Captain America raised his shield, took a blocking stance, and shouted at the same time, "Get behind me!" Bede didn't listen to him. Although the speed of these stone thorns is comparable to bullets, the spider senses that it can even dodge real bullets, so it is naturally not afraid of them. Quantum Spider Silk Bomb. Raising his hand, Bede used the mutant ability of the newly developed skill. The Spider Silk Bomb took shape instantly, and directly stuck to Ebony Throat's face. Ebony Throat didn't react at all. After all, he just had a strong mind, but it didn't mean that his reaction ability was also very sensitive. Bede took the opportunity to shoot out a thread of spider silk, quickly stepped forward, clenched his fist and struck it. Dealing with aliens is not like dealing with punks. This situation is either your death or my death, so naturally he will not hold back. This punch has a power of 20 tons. Even Ebony Maw felt the threat of death at this moment. He didn't even bother to pull the spider silk on his face, but hastily shook it with his hand. Boom! I saw that the ground around Ebony Throat suddenly rose and turned into a cover made of earth, wrapping Ebony Throat. But how could a mere piece of dirt stop Spider-Man? Peter's fist hit the dirt, directly smashing the dirt cover open. However, when he entered, he found no one inside. Boom boom boom! There was a sound from the ground. Bede was startled suddenly, and pulled out without hesitation. The next moment, the ground not far away suddenly erupted. An ebony maw emerged from the ground. The cracked earth cover just now was squeezed into a ball by Ebony Throat with the power of his mind, and the squeeze was very small. If Bede hadn't pulled out in time just now, he might have been squeezed to death now. Bede's sudden attack forced him to escape from the ground in a hurry, and now he looked ashamed, which obviously made Ebony Maw very annoyed. He put his fingers together, and an invisible energy slashed towards Bede. Thought kill. Peter hurriedly avoided it, only feeling that if he was a little bit late, he would have to be hit by it. You know, after he has been trained, his body's instinctive reaction has already been fully activated. His current dodge is an instinctive reaction of the body, and it doesn't even need to be judged by the brain. But now I almost got hit. In other words, the speed of this invisible slash was almost the same as the speed of his body's reaction nerves. The spider sensor began to jump wildly. A series of invisible slashes came from Ebony Throat. Bede didn't dare to neglect, and devoted himself wholeheartedly to dodging. On the other side, the US team who was going to help Bede got entangled with Black Dwarf. Although the US team claims to be able to split slash with anyone, it was just a joke after all, and he wasn't really cheating. Facing the infinitely powerful Black Dwarf, he could only resist it with a shield. Although the Black Dwarf has the word dwarf in its name, it is not dwarf at all, and of course there is no relationship between it and a certain celestial body in the universe called a white dwarf. Condescending, coupled with the weight of the weapon, it hit Captain America's shield one after another. If it weren't for Jin's ability to absorb kinetic energy, I'm afraid the US team would have to explain it here now. End of this chapter. Chapter 77 Bede vs Ebony Throat. Chapter 77 Bede vs Ebony Throat. Boom boom boom. Several missiles fell from the sky and exploded on the Black Dwarf one after another. The Black Dwarf has rough skin and thick flesh. To him, the explosion of these missiles is like setting off a few fireworks, which is insignificant. Only the huge kinetic energy carried in it caused his body to shake a few times. The US team was not affected at all. He and Iron Man can be regarded as old partners, and there is still some tacit understanding. He completely shrank his body behind the shield, and all the aftermath of the explosion that leaked from the Black Dwarf was absorbed and dissolved by the vibrating gold shield. Afterwards, he bent his arm slightly, and with the strength of his shoulder and arm, he pushed violently. With the help of the shaking caused by the explosion just now, the center of gravity of the black dwarf actually shifted. Dong dong dong! The black dwarf retreated again and again. At this moment, Captain America took a lunge, leaped high, raised the shield in his hand, and slammed the edge of the shield into Black Dwarf's face. Black Dwarf's face was shaken by the punch. But it didn't actually do any harm. Pfft! Black Dwarf tilted his head and cursed in an alien language, his eyes showing his disdain for Captain America. With a grin, he raised the giant scythe in his hand, and was about to slash at Captain America. However, before he could cut it down, he saw a stream of light descending from the sky. Boom! It turned out that Iron Man went and returned. He was brought to an altitude of several hundred meters by the Ebony Maw, and it was only when he got rid of that strange force that he flew back. He suddenly landed on Black Dwarf's body, pointed his hand at his face, and then slightly bounced his right fist. Doin doin doin! A series of hammering sounds sounded. The iron fist seemed to be equipped with a spring, and it was driven by a small electric motor, which made the Black Dwarf dizzy. However, his physical fitness is different from ordinary people. Apart from being stunned by a series of actions at first, he actually recovered not long after. I saw his hand jerk upwards, grabbing Iron Man's body by the waist. Iron Man immediately withdrew his punches, put his hands on Black Dwarf's hands, and tried to break free. But the power of the Black Dwarf was surprisingly great. Even if it used the reverse jet engine built into the suit, it was just a tug of war for a while. Nourishes. If one plan fails, Iron Man can make another plan. A highly concentrated laser beam emerged from his hands and shot at the hands of the Black Dwarf. Black Dwarf let go of Iron Man with a howl of pain. At this time, the US team attacked again. He jumped on the Black Dwarf's back, put his feet around his neck, and hit the Black Dwarf hard with his shield one after another. Roar! Black Dwarf felt like his head was about to be smashed into two pieces. Why don't these two things talk about martial arts at all, and greet people's heads every time they get a chance? Obviously other places are bigger and easier to hit. Black Dwarf felt wronged. And the other side? Bede also got into a fight with Ebony Maw. The invisible thought slash made Bede exhausted at first. But he soon got used to this attacking rhythm and became comfortable again. So, he began to try to counterattack in some evasive gaps. Every time you raise your hand, more than one quantum spider silk is ejected. His quantum silk bomb is extremely fast and virtually silent. Even Ebony Throat can only be deflated one after another. In just a short time, his face was covered with several layers of spider silk. Unfortunately, these spider silks are extremely viscous. After reacting with the air and turning them into solid spider silks, only Spider-Man can use biological static electricity to remove them in advance. Ebony Throat stretched out his hand and tore it several times, but he could only tear it apart a little. He was really frustrated in this fight. A long-range mage met an assassin whose dodge attribute was almost full. The result is just empty blue bars. Finally, at a certain moment, the time Bede had been waiting for a long time finally arrived. He came to a blind spot of Ebony Maw's vision. On this side, due to a large group of spider silk covering his eyes, it was almost difficult for Ebony Maw's eyes to see what happened here. Peeta stretched out his hands and shot out two strands of spider silk at the same time, sticking to the buildings on both sides. Spider silk slingshot. Bede's body was as straight as a sharp arrow, flying towards the Ebony Throat. Bang! What? Two screams sounded almost simultaneously. The source is none other than Bede and Ebony Throat. Bede's attack was detected by Ebony Maw at the last moment. But it was too late for him to dodge, so he prepared to trade injuries for injuries. He stretched out his left hand and pushed in front of him, and a barrier formed by thoughts enveloped his body, while the other hand stretched out two fingers, and swung a thought slash at Bede. The early warning from the spider sense made Bede aware of the crisis he was facing. But he didn't want to give up this hard-won opportunity. At the last moment, he shifted his body slightly to avoid the vital parts of his body. And the fist he waved hit hard on Ebony Throat's mental barrier. A powerful blow exceeding 20 tons instantly shattered the mental barrier. However, there was a faint smile on Ebony Throat's face, and there was a bit of disdain in the smile. Stupid and backward animals. In the eyes of the self-respecting Ebony Throat, these creatures who are still trapped on the indigenous planet are nothing more than some inferior animals. In his opinion, although this inferior animal is relatively strong, it is nothing more than that. The punch just now could shatter his mental shield, but judging from the feedback of strength, it has already reached the limit. But his attack left a huge transverse wound on the body of this inferior animal. He will win this battle. However, what he didn't notice was that the fist that had completely lost its power was still covered with a faint gleam. Slap! The fist gently pressed against Ebony Throat's face. It looked like it was just a little bit placed on top, with no power at all. But the next moment... Quantum Stinger! A gleam of light drilled into Ebony Maw's head. Bede placed high hopes on this skill, which was put into actual combat for the first time. Bang! A soft sound. Ebony Maw's face changed drastically, and he cut off the flesh and blood on his head near the area where Bede hit him without hesitation. Peeta and Ebony Maw were in touch. And both sides paid a huge price. Ebony Throat's entire head was missing by nearly 1/3. If he hadn't reacted in time and his thoughts were instantaneous, he might even be dead at this moment. Bede, on the other hand, suffered a huge wound on his waist and abdomen. His entire side was cut open, and a large piece of flesh was wrapped together with the spider suit, hanging dripping with blood. The unspeakable pain made Bede grit his teeth, unable to speak a word. Blood spurted from his side ribs, soaking half of his body in an instant. Ebony Throat trembled and slowly raised his hand. "You despicable and inferior animal, how dare you hurt me, go to hell!" End of this chapter. Chapter 78 Tragic. Chapter 78 Tragic. Bede didn't just stand there all the time. Countless rays of light emanated from his wound, and immediately after that, strands of spider silk appeared, wrapping the entire wound, flesh, and clothes. The blood stopped quickly. Apart from half of his body that was stained red and a large pool of blood at his feet, there was no sign of this serious injury. As soon as he finished dealing with it, he heard Ebony Throat's voice turning into anger from embarrassment. To this, Peeta responded with a sneer. Although Ebony Maw reacted, he barely avoided death. But with 1/3 of his head missing, anyone can see how bad his current state is. The idea that was originally used freely requires a certain amount of energy to be used, not the instant one before. "I said you noseless alien, wouldn't you?" Peeta dodged and avoided Ebony Maw's attack, but was involved in the wound, which made him gasp, but his mouth still not forgiving. "You are not from Kellen's hometown, are you?" Ebony Throat didn't speak, and cut with another thought. Bede dodged again, and continued to launch verbal attacks. "Oh no, you not only have no nose, but also no hair. You have no brains without hair. You're still unhappy now, aren't you?" "I'm not happy that the kid is like you, with a long face and an angry look." "Excuse me, Kid Ebony Throat, why are you so unhappy?" Bede's trash talk magic and Ebony Maw's thoughts clashed silently in the air. Bede dodged all the mind slashes. But Ebony Throat was pierced by the magic knife of trash talking. He was already delirious because he was missing 1/3 of his head, but suddenly he was so angry that he spurted blood 3 feet. However, Ebony Throat is worthy of being a strategist under Thanos. Even though part of his head was cut off, and even though Bede said that his whole body was filled with smoke, he still retained some sanity. He looked at the situation on the Black Dwarf side and found that the other party was fighting back and forth with 2 other people, so he knew that he couldn't count on this guy with a bad mind. Even if he had his head cut off, his brain area would still be enough to beat this big brainless guy. He changed his mind and had already made the decision to retreat. Ebony Throat raised its hand. All the thoughts were gone. B also stopped, looking at Ebony Maw, eager to try. The reason why he didn't go forward just now was because he was observing the state of Ebony Throat, and secondly, he was waiting for his body to recover. Perhaps it is because the quantum energy belongs to his own power. He mobilized the quantum energy just now to temporarily seal the wound with a netting method, but unexpectedly found that the place where the quantum energy fit was healing at a faster speed with. For him, this quantum energy is actually a good medicine for healing. Although he didn't know why this happened, since it was a good thing, Pedro naturally accepted it. The resilience given to him by the spider gene is already very strong, and it is even more astonishing when he actively consumes quantum energy to recover. But in just a few minutes, his body has recovered a lot, at least he doesn't have to worry about the piece of meat on the side falling off when he moves violently. Furthermore, through continuous testing of language, he also discovered that Ebony Maw is really weak now. Take advantage of his illness and kill him. B didn't hesitate at all, and directly rushed towards Ebony Maw. Ebony Maw was obviously well prepared. He flipped his hand over and pressed down. Boom! The majestic idea exploded in an instant. The grass under his feet was deeply pressed in, forming a pit nearly half a meter deep and 5 meters in diameter. This kind of range attack cannot be avoided by the spider sense. B was directly grabbed by the volley and pushed into the ground. The next moment, Pedro gritted his teeth, endured the severe pain in his waist, supported himself with his hands, and got up. At this time, several spaceships appeared in the sky at unknown times. These spaceships are not as big as the one at the beginning, and should only be small spaceships used to transport small groups of soldiers. But they can take Ebony Maw too. At this time, a small spaceship had stopped in the air about 10 meters above the ground, and Ebony Throat stepped on a piece of dirt at its feet, flying towards it. "Did I let you go?" Pedro growled, stretched out each hand to stick out a spider thread, stuck to the small spaceship, and pulled it violently. The spaceship shook several times. This small airship, which is not much different from the individual soldier type, is relatively light due to the use of some special aviation metal. The overall weight is only a few tons, which is no different from a small car. As for B, even though he was injured and has not recovered quickly, his strength is still amazing. The small spaceship was pulled by him and moved down bit by bit. In order to counter his power, bright flames were ejected from the bottom of the spaceship, which should have activated some kind of thruster facility. Seeing that Ebony Maw was about to enter the small spaceship, a bright yellow light suddenly lit up in the air not far from their battle. This bright yellow light turned into a circle in the air. Immediately afterwards, a support team headed by Dr. Strange ran out from inside. "Sorry, something happened over there, I'm late." Dr. Strange first came to Pedro's side and apologized. Pedro couldn't figure out whether his apology was true or false. It stands to reason that since Dr. Strange has seen the future, he should know these things. But he looked innocent. But no matter what, the arrival of Dr. Strange and others has completely plunged Ebony Maw into despair. In his prime, it would be difficult for him to defeat Dr. Strange. Otherwise, there is no need to engage in some small actions. Facing the seriously injured Ebony Throat, Dr. Strange took it down with a few strokes. And the few small spaceships that came to support from the sky, except for the one that Bede pulled with the spider silk, all the rest fled when they saw the situation was not good. It wasn't until the small spaceship turned into a fireball and exploded with a bang that Bede was slightly relieved and fell powerlessly to the ground. A figure appeared beside him at the right time and caught him. The other side. In fact, starting a few minutes ago, with the escalation of the scale of the battle scene between Black Dwarf, Iron Man, and the US team has moved from the Avengers headquarters to the nearby forest. All the trees the three of them passed were broken, and some even burned. However, facing a powerful and tough opponent like Black Dwarf, Iron Man, and Captain America really have a headache. Captain America's attack was basically negligible. Even if he used the kinetic energy absorbed by the vibrating gold to counterattack the Black Dwarf again and again, it would only leave innocuous marks on the Black Dwarf's face. An Iron Man is ready to mobilize the anti-Hulk armor. He thinks this thing is similar to the Hulk. Although there is no anti-Hulk, the anti-Hulk should be similar, right? End of this chapter. Chapter 79 Ebony Throat, defeated. Chapter 79 Ebony Throat, defeated. As for his other armors, 4 or 5 of them have already been dismantled. That thing is like a large figure to Black Dwarf, without Iron Man driving it himself, the combat power is simply a world of difference. Steve, Iron Man shouted while attacking, Pete's side is also very dangerous, I must go to support him. The US team shouted, you go, leave this place to me. Iron Man replied, hold on, reinforcements are on the way. Immediately, before the US team asked what the reinforcements were, Iron Man had already flown to the Avengers headquarters. He was too worried about Pete's side. From the fight just now, he already knew Ebony Maw's strange ability, and only a mage like Doctor Strange could deal with him. And Spider-Man, as a hero enhanced by the pure physics department, wants to fight against the magician of the mysterious department, I'm afraid. Iron Man, who already has a good impression of Bede, doesn't want anything to happen to him. He also wanted to introduce Bede to his great student Peter Parker, so that little Peter and this Bede could learn from each other. Iron Man didn't know that his behavior made Bede like the old general on the stage, with flags all over his body. Fortunately, Bede's life was hard, and he was hit by the ebony throat at close range, and he rescued himself abruptly. When Iron Man arrived nearby, he received a warning from Friday. Sir, a UFO is approaching rapidly. No flying objects. Is it the military? Iron Man asked. The serial number is unknown, the shape is not in the database matching, and it matches Thanos' spaceship with a high degree of matching. It is suspected to be an alien spaceship. Friday replied. Shoot them down. Iron Man understood immediately and said without hesitation. As his words fell, there were a few roars suddenly sounded in the Avengers building not far away. A round of missiles were launched from it and bombarded those small spaceships. Shields appeared on the surfaces of several spaceships, blocking the missile bombardment. But just like this, the pursuit from below also arrived. First, the War Machines and Falcons, which are air units, flew over and used various means to find a small spaceship. When Iron Man saw this, he also found one. These small spacecraft did not carry any weapons. After the shield energy was destroyed by an attack, it was shot down. Iron Man used the laser knife in his hand to cut open the hull of the spacecraft and found that there was no one inside. Apparently these are all driverless. Immediately, he looked down and found that half of Bede's body was stained red with blood, and flew over immediately. Your injury looks serious, and you're bleeding a lot. Do you want me to help you sit aside? Doctor Strange added a few spell locks to the ebony throat, then turned to look at Bede and asked. When Bede fell down just now, he was caught by the Black Widow coming from the portal. Bede nodded, thank you. He does feel a little exhausted now. It should be physical weakness caused by excessive blood loss. Although his body is strong now, his self-healing ability is also extremely strong, and he also quickly used quantum spider silk to make an emergency bandage for himself. But hematopoiesis takes time. The battle was intense just now, and the adrenaline exploded, but I still can't feel it. Now that the battle is over, as soon as he relaxes, his whole body feels weak. Doctor Strange helped Bede all the way to a place that was not damaged by the battle and sat down. Bede complained, why did you guys come so much later than scheduled? I almost told you. Doctor Strange smiled awkwardly, and explained, shortly after the battle on your side started, Wakanda was attacked. The space was blocked, so it was a step late. The space is blocked? Is it Thanos' method? Bede was slightly startled and asked. Doctor Strange nodded. B frowned. He didn't remember that Thanos had the ability to block space in the original work. Is it the butterfly effect caused by him as a time traveler, or is it not shown because the original work is too poorly expressive? There is a regeneration cradle in the building over there, send it there, said Iron Man, who landed beside Bede, and he explained, the regeneration cradle is a nanomedical technology that can help the injured quickly restore body tissue, suture the wound and so on. How's the battle over there, where's the captain? Bede didn't refuse Iron Man's kindness, but he still asked about the situation on the other side. Iron Man said, I sent reinforcements to help him, there should be no problem. Besides, Rhodes and Sam have already arrived. Bede nodded. He first took out the Eye of Agamotto hanging on his chest from his suit and handed it to Doctor Strange, and then got into the portal opened by Doctor Strange. Iron Man followed suit. But instead of doing it himself, he ordered Friday. During Friday's operation, the hibernation pod-style regeneration cradle opened. Bede's wound was mainly on the left side. From the armpit to the waist, a whole piece of flesh about centimeters long, centimeters wide and about centimeters thick was cut off, and the white flesh could be seen inside. Bones. Even some of the bones that were closer to the meat were also cut away. Because his suit was trapped with his flesh and blood with quantum spider silk, he naturally couldn't take it off, so he had to lie in it with the suit. Friday, first help Mr. Bede clean up the blood on his body and take care of his clothes. Iron Man's nanosuit was restrained. Looking at Bede's injuries, his brows frowned all of a sudden. Judging from the scanned images of the regenerated cradle, at least 3 ribs on Bede's body had been shaved off, with a thickness of about half a centimeter. He couldn't imagine how Bede could bear the pain of having a part of his body cut off, and even used spider silk to make a temporary bandage for himself and continue fighting. This fighting will made him awe-inspiring. At this time, Bede was actually not that emotional. He was indeed seriously injured, but perhaps due to the filling of quantum energy, it was not as painful as Iron Man imagined. He was thinking about the broken spider suit on his body at this time, feeling very regretful. It took less than a week for this set of spider suits to be filled in his hands. It ended up being broken. After a small half was cut off by Ebony Throat's thought, the circuit inside was extremely damaged, and several layers of different materials inside and outside were also destroyed. I don't know if I can use Iron Man or Black Panther's machine to repair it. Also, the materials for repairing the suit are probably not cheap, so he has no money to fix it. Is it free? Not feeling well? Or go to the street at night and find some lucky gangsters to borrow some. If you borrow it from a gangster, you can probably get it together with tens of thousands of people, but it might be a bit difficult to use it to repair a high-tech spider suit. Then I guess I have to rob the legendary king of gangsters, Kingpin. How about grabbing Thanos' spaceship and selling it to Iron Man? Peter opened his eyes and thought wildly, letting the instruments of the regeneration cradle sweep over his body. End of this chapter. Chapter 80 Black Dwarf, Stealing My Wife? Chapter 80 Black Dwarf, Stealing My Wife? While Bede was receiving treatment, the battlefield on the other side also began to take a turn for the better. Cap learned what reinforcements were shortly after Iron Man left. It was a combination of a big brother with several little brothers. Big Brother is a tall and burly mech, with a body as high as 2 floors, and looks silly. It is the anti-Hulk armor developed by Iron Man and Dr. Banner together. Apart from being used to fight the Hulk when fighting Ultron 2 years ago, this suit of armor has been left gathering dust in the warehouse of the Avengers headquarters for most of the rest of its life. After all, this is already a large-scale war machine, and it is not used under normal circumstances. As for the few flying companions beside it, they are a pair of unmanned steel armor. Boom! The anti-Hulk armor fell from the sky and hit the Black Dwarf heavily. Now Black Dwarf is repeating his old tricks, condescending and beating the US team hard. Captain America is also recreating the classic right now, kneeling on one knee and being beaten painfully. Black Dwarf suddenly turned around and hit the Hulkbuster armor with the giant scythe in his hand. The Hulk armor is now intelligently controlled by Friday. It raised its right arm and popped out an arm shield, blocking the Black Dwarf's counterattack. At the same time, a cannon muzzle extended from the left arm, aiming at the Black Dwarf's head with a short-range cannon. Hum! The Black Dwarf's head buzzed for a while. Unparalleled defense does not mean immunity from shock. In game terms, the Black Dwarf is in a stupor. And this time, under the huge size of the Hulkbuster armor, the Black Dwarf was overturned at once. Captain America immediately turned over and sang, jumping up, taking back all the anger he had just received. Several large and small steel armors also focused their fire on the Black Dwarf star. After several seconds, the Black Dwarf was finally broken by an unknown attack. Strange colored blood flowed from under the skin. Hey, Ewan at Ewan, Ewan asterisk Ewan % and. Black Dwarf let out a roar, as if he had entered a state of rage, grabbed a pair of steel armor beside him, held it in his hand, slapped it hard on the ground, and then twisted it violently, as if he wanted to tear it into 2 pieces. However, these steel armors are all made of titanium alloy as the main material, and their toughness and hardness are extremely high. How can they be torn apart at once? Black Dwarf tried hard several times and was able to break it. Afterwards, he casually threw the scrap steel armor aside, and went to get his giant scythe. Unexpectedly, the giant scythe was gone. He looked around in a little confusion, and found a figure running towards the distance not far away, carrying his giant scythe. A question mark slowly appeared on Black Dwarf's forehead. Then he flew into a rage. For him whose IQ is not enough, this weapon is like his partner, the love of his life. For the rest of my life, it's all about you. But now the love of my life has been taken away by someone. Black Dwarf felt as if he had been hit hard on the head by a word called NTR. IQ -1. Sanity -100. Black Dwarf gets buff, berserk. The huge body rushed forward quickly, and combined with the armor on his body, it looked like a heavily armored tank. Captain America, who was holding a giant scythe, was taken aback and moved a few steps faster. Stealing Black Dwarf's wife, giant scythe, was actually his last-minute idea. The Black Dwarf itself belongs to the type of anti-high blood thickness. In fact, the output ability is not strong. But the existence of this giant sickle made up for his shortcomings. This giant scythe is not only powerful, but it can also be extended and shortened, like a weapon called a flail. The US team felt that taking it away might be the key to changing the situation of the battle. It's just that this giant scythe is really too heavy. Boom! Black Dwarf didn't rush far before he was hit by the Hulkbuster armor and hit the ground. The 2 big men just wrestled on the ground. All of a sudden, nearby trees suffered. Captain America ran a long distance with Black Dwarf's wife on his shoulders. He didn't stop until he could hardly hear the sounds behind him. Then he threw Black Dwarf's wife aside and laughed. It's stable now, he thought to himself, turned his head and went back along the original road. When the American team returned to the battlefield again, they found that it was already a mess. None of the nearby trees, flowers, and plants were intact, and they were all mixed in the soil. And the Black Dwarf and the Hulk armor just stand there, and you punch each other. It's so polite. But it all ended with the intrusion of a 6th child. Originally due to arrears of IQ and loss of sanity, Black Dwarf was inexplicably taken away by the anti-Hulk armor. When he saw the return of the US team, the hatred immediately returned to the US team. He casually picked up a big tree that fell on the ground, pulled off the branches on it, and threw it at Captain America. Captain America just lost his shield in order to steal the giant scythe. Seeing the giant spear coming, he had no choice but to fall to the ground and roll. But at this moment, another stone hit him. The US team wanted to dodge, but found that it was too late. Over there, the anti-Hulk armor ran fast and knocked the Black Dwarf to the ground again, and the two sides fell into a fierce battle that rolled all over the ground again. And on this side, just when Captain America couldn't dodge enough and thought he was about to be hit, a figure suddenly jumped out from the side. Bang! The figure flew over, hugged Captain America, and took him to the other side. Captain America looked at the man who saved him, and saw the familiar suit. Pete? No, you are Tony's spider boy. The Dutch spider asked suspiciously. Hello, Mr. Captain, I'm Peter, and I'm also Spider Boy. What happened here? Captain America pointed to the other side and said, there is an alien coming to steal our things, so Stark, Bede, I are stopping them. It turned out to be an alien. It's so big, the Dutch spider said in surprise, but I just came here. The US team explained, we met a Spider-Man from the parallel universe. He is also named Pete, but he is from Hangzhou. You will meet him when you have a chance. Wow! The Dutch spider's eyes lit up. Parallel universe? And my name? Also Spider-Man. This is too cool. Where is he? Can I meet him? Captain America pointed helplessly. Do you think it's appropriate to meet people in this situation? The Dutch spider nodded, and said seriously, I know Mr. Captain, so let's defeat him first. As he said that, without waiting for Captain America to speak, he rushed up on his own. Hey! Captain America was about to stop him. There is no harm without comparison. After just a short time of contact, there is a sharp contrast between Bede's maturity and stability and the Dutch spider's rashness and immaturity. The two may have the same sense of justice, but the Dutch spider is obviously too young to be reassuring. End of this chapter. Like and subscribe.